You know, y'all remind me of the Babe,
What, babe?
the Babe with power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Hoodoo.
Y'all do.
Do what?
Remind me of the Babe.
Oh, the bay.
Oh!
Oh my goodness. Sorry,
Oh, we're here for a labyrinth talk.
I completely blanked
What?
for
I
a
was
second
so
there.
confused. Oh my God, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming
What's
back to
happening?
another episode of A Muppet Moment.
What's going
Today.
on?
Oh, huh?
Something's happening over here. Whoa!
It's the intro to the podcast episode, and the
Oh my God,
owl is flying by. The
it's the
CGI
introductory owl,
owl.
our frequent character introductory owl.
Oh my gosh, it's the start of the movie, which also means it's the start of the podcast, and we have the owl flying by.
Whoa!
Oh! Oh!
No way!
Is that the Goblin King?
Yes, and as king, I will introduce myself first. Jareth,
Oh!
Miss Leisure,
Hello,
both identities at once.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And as Goblin King, you get first intro. Welcome back to a Muppet Moment. I am Mupdates.
I am Muppet Man Max. Guys, welcome back. This is such an exciting episode for us. We recently broke down Jim Henson's other dark fantasy film, The Dark Crystal. But that's something's been on my mind this whole time. I have been, ever since we filmed The Dark Crystal, I have been stewing. I have been labyrinthing. I have been trying to get out of this darn labyrinth and get to the castle. We're talking about Labyrinth, y'all.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Oh my goodness, what a spectacular film that very recently celebrated its 40th anniversary with a big re-release in movie theaters.
Yes,
Now,
which is insane to me because I thought the anniversary was like 2 years ago because they just re-released it. They keep re-releasing Labyrinth, which
They're
is
actually
great for
kind
us
of
because I love it.
re-releasing it a little early because the release date was June 27th, 1986, which by the way is like less than a month before I was born. Coincidence? I
Heyo.
think not. I think not.
wow, the timelines they're linking up. Something's
This is a
Yeah.
happening.
very good year. A lot of good things came this year.
Excellent year, yes. I'm like a wine like sommelier. You're like, yes, Labyrinth, Miss Lee,
Yes.
and
All the
Brit.
best things
And
came out in 1986. That's all I'm saying.
True, and I'm always saying this.
oh
Um,
my gosh. Well, before we kind of start getting into this movie here, because as Will said, the anniversary is this year. It's re-released in theaters. People are hyped on Labyrinth. We're joined by Brit, Miss Leisure, who is incredibly dressed as the Goblin King, Jareth. Miss Leisure, Brittany, would you like to just break down a little bit of like who you are, what you do, and just your connection to Labyrinth?
Yeah, so I'm Brittany, aka Miss Leisure. I've also ever gone by Annika Leisure. And I am a puppeteer in Atlanta, Georgia. I do a lot with the Center for Puppetry Arts. Normally, my main thing is experimental puppetry theater. I'm a puppet builder, I'm a cosplayer. And if you go to my gram, which is like pretty much my only social media presence, you'll just see all the fun things that I do, which is mostly Muppets, tropical escapism, and fashion that is either Muppets or tropical escapism.
Let's
So,
go.
honestly, what an overlap. It's kind of giving Kermit performing with Jimmy Buffett type beat.
no, I just want to be living in Muppet Treasure Island at all
Mhm.
times. But Labyrinth is, well, I was going to say it's a close second, but Labyrinth was basically my identity as a child. So, yeah.
Honestly,
It
I
like
need
makes
to
what
make a
a,
sense.
tropical Jareth tiki outfit or something.
I would love a new home bar that is like a tiki labyrinth dungeon. That would
Yeah.
be incredible.
that would be spectacular. But Britt, thank you so much for joining us because you are obviously a huge lover of Labyrinth, a labyrinth, if you will. Because you've got a very unique bit of insight that neither of us have. And more embarrassingly for me, because I was literally not only in the country when it happened, I was in the city of London when it happened, and I didn't get to attend the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball that happened last year.
Yeah.
And we are, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to hear all of that after we chat a little bit about this movie. Oh my goodness, and what a movie it is. I gotta start off with a little bit of a confession to you guys and to
Mm,
everybody. I
Please.
Up until I saw it very recently at theaters, I I I didn't I wasn't on the hype train. I wasn't one of the girlies who got it. No. I
Really?
it was
you and Dave
okay.
Goals.
It's it's really embarrassing because like now that I've like seen it and I've seen it on the big screen, it's like that one Danny DeVito clip from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's like, "Oh my God, I get it
Get it.
now. I get it now." Because we're gonna back to 2016. It was a little after David Bowie had passed. It really hit my mother quite hard because I've decided before. My mother was the one who put me onto the Muppets at a very young age, but what I didn't know was that when she was growing up in the 80s, she was huge on Labyrinth. She absolutely loved Labyrinth. It was her fa one of her favorite movies. And after David Bowie passed, she tried to put me and my brother onto Labyrinth, and we just didn't get it. I was 16. I thought I was too cool for school. She was trying to show me mastery. She was trying to show me artistry, and I just could not get on board with it. I didn't know what it was.
Imagine
I
thinking you're too cool for the Goblin King.
now that I'm like a grown man and I can appreciate culture, I'm like, fuck, man, I need
But
to.
like everyone's in love with David Bowie as Jareth, right? I thought that was just a known fact.
I
No,
thought
no.
across the board, it appeals to everyone.
It's just every human, probably non-humans. I don't know,
All living creatures like I'm
creatures.
just like I see
Period.
David Bowie and I'm like ah.
Well, not to get incredibly personal, but there were some things that I know about myself now that I hadn't worked out yet at 16. So that wasn't really an open avenue for me at the time. But yeah, my goodness. And I didn't get it at the time. I'm so sorry to my mother, who I know listens to these. You tried. I'm on the correct path right now. I'm on the steady path.
Gosh, yeah, get it right. I'm glad that
I'm
Come
you like
on,
fixed that. Wow.
I've
please.
fixed my life, turned my life around. I am a full labyrinther.
It was
But
touch and
yeah,
go there for a minute, but
we
you're on the right path
We
now.
figured it out. We're
it was one
back.
of those things that like when I started getting involved with Muppet people, I was really embarrassed to like mention. I was like, "Ooh, how do I bring up that I didn't really fuck heavy with Labyrinth without being like ostracized, chased out with pitchforks and torches?"
Yeah.
But now
I mean, I would have been carrying one of those torches
I was gonna
probably.
say you would have been leading the mob. You would have created the mob group chat and you would have like
Well,
cut up the orange
and just
slices.
sat you down in front of a TV playing the labyrinth on repeat until you did get it, you
That's
know? I
why
mean, like, I wouldn't give up on you, you know?
That's why I didn't say anything in New York because I know you would have just kind of like throttled me and taken me back to the mommy and just made me
Yeah.
stare for like
Just
10 to
kidding. We're
15
not
minutes.
hanging out with Heather Henson anymore. We have
No,
bigger
you're gonna
priorities.
you're gonna sit and you're gonna look at the costumes and you're gonna think about what's going wrong in your life.
You can
You're
see
gonna
the bulge of Jareth's costume in New York City, and we're gonna stare at it for the next 20 minutes until you get it.
I was wondering how long it was gonna take us to segue to that point. Yes. My goodness
This
me.
movie features Jareth Bulge, a lot of it.
A lot of
And
it.
on the big screen, oh boy.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just kind of counting my blessings that it wasn't in 3D because I would have
Ah,
had to like, whoa,
whoa,
ducking the
Jesus.
whole time. Not to
Ugh.
Yeah,
get
that's
I would
why I'm like
say
a 40-year-old woman watching Jareth's Bulge on the big screen and I'm like genuinely flushed and embarrassed, like just like embarrassed.
it's just it's
he's had the same effect for the last 40 years with this movie. It's just literally same reactions forever.
it's but now that I've taken it in kind of for the first time and I'm appreciating it at an age where I can comprehend it, I genuinely like my God. I mean, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but what a movie. What a
Incredible.
movie. It's like
I
it's just like a kind of more accessible version of Dark Crystal to me because like wow.
I
Yeah.
would say that Labyrinth, I adore Labyrinth. I think it's an incredible movie. I was a little different from Will in the sense that I had watched it when I was a kid, and it was one of those things like you ever have one of those movies that you watch when you're really young in like the den of your parents' house, dark at night, everyone's gone to bed. I had gotten a VHS tape of Labyrinth as a kid, and I'd never heard, no one had explained anything to me. But I remember this experience of like being 8 years old, putting in the Labyrinth VHS and just being like transported, blown away. I didn't like fully get the movie, but I was like sold. I was like, this is incredible. And when it was re-released about 2 years ago or 3 years ago at this
Yeah.
point, I was living in Sacramento. I was just having a night in, and I realized that it had been re-released, and I was like, screw it, I'll go out. Getting to see that movie on the big screen, that, oh my god, this is one of the greatest feats that the Henson Company has ever done. Some of the greatest practical effects, set design, puppetry, everything. Like, I cannot wait to get into this movie with y'all, because holy shit, one of the best things Henson has ever made.
For me, I mentioned that the movie basically released about a month before I was born. I messaged my mom and my dad last night because I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure we had the Labyrinth like bootleg recorded on a VHS
Oh
tape.
my
Like I never
goodness.
actually owned. I don't think that there were kiss tape or what are they called? Clamshells. But I don't think I actually ever owned like the official VHS. Like I bought my first copy as like a DVD, when I was 20 or something.
Mm.
But I don't remember a world where there wasn't a labyrinth and where the labyrinth wasn't a part of like my identity. And so I asked him, I was like, what's that about, by the way? Like, did y'all go watch it in movie theaters and y'all liked it? Like I wasn't born yet when it came out. Like, how come, like, when did we get it and why? And both of them were like, we don't know, Brittany. We just know that you were obsessed with it.
We're not taking the fault for this one. That one's on you. This one, we had nothing to do with it.
My whole life, when I was like a 5-year-old, they'd be like, "Oh, your husband," that David Bowie.
True.
Good pick. That's a good, like, if
Yeah.
it's gonna be anyone, I would like it to be that. If my parents are gonna pressure me to be with anyone, I would hope it's David Bowie.
I
My
mean,
my dog's name is David Bowie. Just fun fact.
oh
Oh,
my gosh.
oh, that's so cute.
That's really good.
That's
Oh my
adorable.
God. My cousins have a little tiny Shih Tzu looking guy. And he has heterochromia. He's got like his eyes
Yes.
are different colors, and they named him Ziggy after Ziggy
Yeah,
Stardust.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cute.
Yeah. He's such a funny little creature. I'm so obsessed with him.
As we're kind of talking about David Bowie here, a point I really wanted to make in discussing this movie is Jareth is one of my all-time favorite movie villains, just across the board, because a few reasons. One, he's like the least threatening villain I think of all time. And there's also an argument to the fact that he's not even like a villain. He's trying to teach like this lesson to Sarah and everything. I love that through the whole movie. I don't get a sense from him that I'm like ever. There was literally never a point in the movie where I'm scared of Jareth. Like the Skeksis and Dark Crystal freak me out at many points, but Jareth just kind of like gaily slides around and like twists a freaking kendama ball or whatever. A fushigi ball.
Oh my God.
Yeah, for a kids movie, right? I think that's fair to say. It was in, I mean, maybe Jim Henson never made anything that was only meant for kids,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
for a story about coming of age, I think that Jareth is a really complex character, and we feel that because Sarah's conflicted about him, so we feel conflicted about him. And when someone's that pretty, I mean,
Hmm. I
It's
actually
hard.
have,
It makes sense.
I had like a really interesting discussion with somebody recently about Jareth. Because I think that as like a villain, I think he's kind of just about as present as he needs to be in the story. He doesn't overdo it, but he's also not just kind of like he's not underused. There's a good balance of Jareth, enough to be like, oh my God, there's David Bowie and the big spiky hair, but not like just sitting around waiting for David Bowie and the big spiky hair. There's enough movie to like satisfy you, but then every now and again he's like there. But the one of the big points that, and I'm prepared to have a discussion about this if y'all disagree with me about this. The one of the things that really interests me about Jareth is that I hear from a lot of people, I don't know, it's a lot of people who probably like haven't seen Labyrinth since they were like young. Um, Consider Jareth to be kind of like I don't know,
Creepy.
like I consider like a creep.
yeah.
But like then is this the other end of the scale, which is like people who like, and I kind of I call it the Beetlejuice effect because it's like a phenomenon of people like grown people like going for Halloween costumes and doing couple costumes as like Beetlejuice and Lydia.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like Sarah and Jareth fall under the Beetlejuice effect sometimes, where they're like couples will do them together, and it's like I don't
I love
There's
know.
a scale with
Yeah,
Harley Quinn and Joker being on the extreme of like, ugh, and
yeah,
like Beetlejuice and Lydia being like right after that. But yeah,
yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I actually want to hear Max's thoughts first.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I would okay, I definitely have a few things I want to say in regards to this. Like first of all, I definitely understand how someone could watch this movie and just be a little creeped out by Jared in the sense that he is like an older man and this girl. He has a whole scene where it's like he's locking eyes with this young girl in a ballroom and it's like this whole thing. I would understand how someone could watch this and get some uncomfortableness. I also understand if people have things in their past where just seeing an older man kind of having this having any sort of like kind of manipulation of a young girl just make them uncomfortable. I totally get that. But for me, I saw like I not to get too much of my personal life here. As someone who's maybe dealt with that myself in the past to some degrees, I personally watched this movie and I don't really kind of assign that to this movie when I watch it, even though I've kind of been through similar experiences in my past. I kind of see Jareth not as this like very creepy, like I don't really see him as a creepy figure, at least when I watch this movie. I see him very much just as this like skeevy manipulating like creature that is trying to get Sarah to there's like yes he's trying to get Sarah to kind of convince her to like stay in the labyrinth and to kind of succumb to that and to kind of fulfill all of those like fantastical wishes that she has, but she's also trying to teach the lesson to Sarah to like to care about her brother, to have empathy, to like not be selfish, do all these things. I understand how, I guess my kind of through line is I understand how people could kind of find it creepy. I'm kind of in the camp where I think I like Jareth a lot, and I think he's a great character. So that's kind of yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
So for me, I think I only really recently became aware that this was a lot of people's perceptions, and maybe that was solidified when I met my friend Bloom at the Labyrinth experience. She's like maybe 22 or something like that, right? And I'm 40. And so she was telling, and she got into Labyrinth from her mom, and she said a lot of her, I mean, hopefully I'm not putting words in her mouth, but what I took away from what she said was a lot of her friends were like, you gross, no, and it was for that reason. But she didn't feel that way. I can say I definitely didn't feel that way, but that doesn't really mean anything because I watched a lot of movies now that I look back on now and I'm like, wow, like my media growing up was like making women the butt of jokes, and sexual objects. So, I'm trying to be open about it, but at least so I think anyone who feels that way, it's valid. If when they remake it or they do the prequel or the sequel, basically confirmed Labyrinth project in the works that they're trying to get funding for and whatever. When they remake it or make a sequel, I'm not going to be mad if they redo that because
Yeah.
I think possibly that storyline was informed by it being made in the 80s and Sarah's 15 going on 16. I don't think that's the age of consent, whatever law books say. You know what I mean? Like, I think if
Yeah.
she was 17 going on 18 now, we might be a little bit more okay with it. More like if she was 20 going on 21.
Yeah, that's like that would be the ideal. That's the ideal time in your life if you're gonna start entertaining the idea of like dating older men. You gotta do it in your 20s. You gotta get your minor years over with and start to
Yeah.
get a little life perspective.
I,
But
I
what,
also
oh,
I also think real quick that it's just like I understand how someone could kind of have that adverse reaction to the Labyrinth because you're right, Sarah is like 15 in this movie, and you're watching Jareth get all creepy and manipulative and all of these things, and so it's like I think there's movies like Call Me by Your Name is a movie that I think of
oh
where
yeah.
the character is like 17 going on 18, technically in like the legal age of consent in Italy at the time, but it's still like manipulation and creepy, even if there's like technically some legality and they're still super fucking young, and it still makes it like I understand how people can watch that movie and go, this is fucking creepy. So like for me, I don't disagree with anyone if that's their reaction to this movie. However, comma, I do. I think you're right in making the point that maybe this was like influenced by the 80s and just kind of that kind of sense. Where I personally don't think Brian Froud or Jim Henson or David Bowie or anyone were going for like a she's 15 and I'm going after her kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of ended up coming off a little weird in the way they were going about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I do think it's a, well, I don't know. But the thing I wanted to say is about what Bloom told me is that for the manga, they
There's
kind
a
of
manga?
there's a manga, there's a bunch of
Ooh.
comics, and then there's a four-part manga that was released in English in the US, but manga style nonetheless. And they try and kind of rewrite this or explain it, which can I say that's okay,
Yeah,
right?
go for it.
Yeah.
So basically, Jareth himself was like maybe like whisked away, like he was trying to do to Toby as a child, and so he's like emotionally stunted, and actually he is the age that like he emotionally feels like that's why we see him getting all old and stuff at the end of the labyrinth. So they try and magic it away and say that like no, he's not like a 35-year-old man creeping on a 15-year-old. He's like he stopped aging when he was stolen as a baby. Really, he's a baby. And David Bowie, I mean, not that they were thinking this or whatever. Maybe they were thinking it. I don't know. David Bowie in one of the featurettes said that he's a big child. Really, he's also a child.
I kind of have a bit of a contradictory point to make. The point that I'm making contradicts both things that I've already said about what I feel about Jareth. But I think, like, while it's interesting to kind of like do rereads of Jareth or to like recontextualize Jareth, the way that I feel about Jareth and that side of it, where he's like in love with Sarah and he's trying to sort of like go about it, I think the way that the movie does it and the presence that it has in the movie, not only is it not unnecessary, but it's also like well executed and I think a really important part of the movie because the key point is that the movie doesn't endorse it. It's
Yes.
like the Beetlejuice movie. It doesn't endorse Beetlejuice and Lydia getting together. It's like this is not okay. The movie doesn't endorse Jareth and Sarah being a thing. Because the point of the movie, it's a be careful what you wish for movie. It's Sarah making this like ill-informed decision at the start where she's like talking about like, oh, the Goblin King was because like it's implied that the events of the movie are real, but it's also implied that it's some kind of like magic wish gone wrong by Sarah because Sarah's talking about like, oh, and the Goblin King was in love with the young girl and wished the baby away. Not only does she come to regret like the baby being whisked away, but she also like that detail about like the Goblin King was in love with the girl. She's not into that. It's about her making ill-informed decisions, learning the consequences of them. Like, oh, this like grown man is in love with me. I'm not into him because I'm 15 and he's a grown man. The movie doesn't endorse Jareth and Sarah getting together, and like that part of it where like Jareth is like, I'm in love with you. I have turned the world upside down and I've done it all for you. It's important because it's like Sarah learning that this isn't what she wanted. And that's why I kind of I like while I think the reread of Jareth as like emotionally stunted is interesting. I think the presence that it like has in the story works for what it is. The where I draw the line I think is people endorsing it. Like, oh,
I,
people
I
thinking like, oh, that's my
well,
OTP. I'm not
I,
into that.
I think kind of the issue you run into a lot with like media consumption and like critically thinking about media is, yeah, like Labyrinth is not saying that it's like it's not a movie portraying Sarah falling in love with the Goblin King and staying in the labyrinth and like all of these bad things coming true. She rejects Jareth. The ball shatters. She rejects all of it. She fights back against the labyrinth. She grows, and as she grows throughout the movie, she learns that she does not only doesn't need all of that, all she had before is what she was really mattered to her. And I think in terms of media consumption, it's like not no spoilers for a movie that just came out, but like it's like I feel this happens every time a movie about that has a character that's nefarious, mischievous, or manipulative, they see them do those actions and go, oh my God, why is the movie portraying this person doing all of these bad things? That's not good. But then it's like, no, the movie isn't saying
Yeah.
to go out and do those or to act like that. It's clearly rejecting that. Like Marty Supreme. I don't know if either of you guys have
I
seen
was hoping,
it.
I was like, you said not to spoil a movie that just came out. I was like, are you gonna liken Jareth the Goblin King to Marty Supreme?
A
Please
little
say that
bit.
you're gonna liken the
Garrett's
Jareth
is
the
going to go a
Goblin
little
King.
bit Marty mode. I'm not trying to make I'm not trying to
Marty
make
mode.
comparisons on the
What
character
about
here, but
Timothy
more
Chalamet for Jareth? Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry.
be kind of good. But I that movie, not to spoil that at all, but it's like about a very manipulative person. And I'm seeing so many think pieces come out after this movie about people going, why the fuck would they ever make this? Like, I cannot believe that they would make a movie about such a manipulative person trying to like do all these things. And for me, when I saw that, I'm like, at no point in the movie are they going, yes, this is how this should go, and this person, the way their actions are going, should like they don't they
And
get
now she's the Goblin Queen.
literally they get consequences for their actions, and they get that's the whole movie is consequences. And like at the end of Labyrinth, so yes, it ends with a dance party, and it kind of seems like, did all of this? Did she really grow in the end? But to me, I think it's like she doesn't accept the Goblin King. She rejects the labyrinth. The friends she made along the way are part of her own growth and not anything to do with Jareth. And I just, yeah, I don't think this movie is endorsing Jareth's creepiness. And I agree with Will's point that I think it is like an essential part of the movie to have him be so skeevy and manipulative and all of that to show that Sarah has no business with this man. We don't want Sarah to like end up with, even if David Bowie is so sexy and the whole audience watching was like, holy shit, David Bowie, we know Sarah should not go into the fucking labyrinth. There's a fucking pit of eternal stench. Like, why would you stay there?
I am of age. I can be into Jareth if I want, but no, Sarah's a
You're
kid.
15, girl. Get out of that damn labyrinth.
Get back. You should be doing your homework. She, should
15,
be.
not 16, and also definitely not 18.
Mm.
No, literally. I
Um,
just want to say, do we have any more points on just like this kind of
well, one thing for me, so I've been listening to Celeste Moth a lot. She's like she's like blown up on TikTok and stuff and about a vampire cult and stuff. Anyways, she has like talked about, I don't know what the word is, but it's this occult concept that like if you put enough energy and thought into fiction that like it can manifest as reality. And I was just, you were sort of blowing my mind, Will, when you were talking about that, because like it doesn't just have to be that it was a dream. It could be like Sarah put so much of her like thought and energy that she literally created Jareth. I forget what this word is, but it's like something that's,
Manifestation.
it's no, it's like, I mean, I don't even really recognize the word. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, like, because that was kind of one of the questions that I had after like seriously going in and like sitting and watching the movie and taking it in. The thing that I found really fun about it, because like if we're talking about like main components of the movie and like we've talked a lot about Jareth, the next thing I want to talk about is the world that it takes place in. Because I think Max, you brought it up in our Dark Crystal podcast, where there was so much like every second of Dark Crystal is them desperately trying to get you clued in on the lore of the world. It's like you have to know every detail about who, why, when, where, what. Labyrinth, it just kind of like throws movie at you and is like, we don't have time to explain this because we're on to the next thing that we're about to throw at you. And the thing that I find really fun about Labyrinth is that pre like the Labyrinth adventure, we don't really see much of like the world. We see like a park and we see Sarah's house. So there's a non-0% chance that the labyrinth was just real. That's just the thing that's the thing that is part of it. Because it's really like open for interpretation because obviously like it pans around. I love when we first go to Sarah's room and it just starts like panning around all of the things in her room. It's the most beautifully like film student thing ever to pan around and you're seeing all of these like items of interest that are gonna be important later and like the Alice in Wonderland book because that's basically what the movie is. The fiery plush, the like big statue of Jareth on her desk, and the MC Escher print on the wall. Because it's like yes, these are all like the world of Labyrinth is just the stuff that's immediately surrounding her, but also like it feels really real and it's very interesting and open for interpretation and that's one of the things that I find really fun about just like the barrier between like what's real and what's Henson-y puppety goobly boobly stuff.
Well, there's this.
I feel like you said like I feel like there's like eight different things in there that I need to address. You said so many great things here, but I was like, oh my God, there's so many things in that statement that I have to like talk about. Um, First of all, in terms of like the sense of panning throughout Sarah's room, I think Will's absolutely correct because like you see the Escher poster, you see the Fireys, you see all of that, and that is the things that are going to be in the movie. Um, but the thing I fucking love about the intro, like my absolute favorite thing, is that there is a distinct shot where the camera pans over like 20 different fantasy books, like 20 different like childhood fantasy books. And I feel like that's the movie saying, literally saying like, this is going to be all of these combined. We're going to literally do like a fantasy movie. And I don't mean this as be insulting towards Labyrinth, or I don't mean to say this as a negative. I almost feel like at many points Labyrinth feels like a satire on like fantasy. It feels like almost like it's doing a commentary on the fantasy genre. I'll get into that more when we meet Hoggle and all of that, because that's really where my point is going to be like stressed. But a point that Will brought up about just the entirety of the world, I just want to say first, the panning shot of Sarah's room where it flips from her room to the labyrinth, the one of the most successful shots I think I've ever seen in a movie. Like
My
that
mind was
is,
blown as a little girl watching that. Yeah.
I forgot like when I saw that
Movie
happen
magic.
in theaters for the first time since I was a kid, I forgot like, oh my God, that is insane. I cannot believe Henson was able to pull that off. But two, the whole kind of concept of like we don't know if the labyrinth is real, we don't know if this is Sarah's fantasy, if it's whatever. I think with fantasy specifically, this whole idea that every single thing needs to be perfectly addressed and every single thing has to be fully explained. Like I love the Dark Crystal, but a lot of the like I made the point before that they're jamming lore and exposition down your throat at every turn. I love with Labyrinth is that you feel like how you'd feel if you were thrown into a labyrinth, into like this alien place that you have no idea. Sarah doesn't know any of this shit. Sarah doesn't. It's like Sarah's just moving through the labyrinth. She just like it's a world that is so unknown to her, and I appreciate that the movie doesn't just over explain every single element. I like feeling like I'm discovering everything along with Sarah.
Well, I think part of that is because of how the writing of the movie happened, right? So they had Terry Jones come in and write the original screenplay, but then there were like massive rewrites. And so Laura Phillips, comes in, writes a completely different script. And then how does it end up being what we ended up watching? Basically, just like, I don't know, throwing in more writers and giving Terry Jones like the final credit, even though what he wrote was like nothing what we saw. So I guess like we experienced that, but it has a good outcome because then it's not beating us over the head with lore like Dark Crystal, I think unsuccessfully did. Not that people don't love Dark Crystal and whatever, but um the other thing I guess I just wanted to say about it, intentionally or not, I do think at the end there's this idea in film, right, that movies either can fall into two categories. They're either Citizen Kane or The Wizard of Oz, right? And so Labyrinth is clearly Wizard of Oz.
Hmm.
I would
I could.
absolutely I would
Oops, sorry.
absolutely agree with that in the sense that like Labyrinth is successful to me in the way that like in bringing up how the writing moves you along in Dark Crystal, the way the plot goes along is just exposition. It's plot elements in the sense where Kira will explain every single thing to Jen, Agra will come out and explain the entire lore. I enjoy with this movie that it's like in The Wizard of Oz, in that kind of story, the Dorothy, she doesn't understand the entire world of Oz. She's kind of skipping along and meeting new people. And it kind of goes through a very kind of classic hero's journey where they're meeting confidants along the way. They're learning more about the world. They're learning more about themselves to finally get to the peak, fight at the end between like the main villain of the story. I think Labyrinth is follows that kind of fantasy playbook so damn like it's like it's so experimental. It's so balls to the walls, but it also is so classic fantasy in every beat of the story, and the way Sarah moves throughout the world, the way the writing is done. I just that's why I'll get into it more as we talk about the movie, but that's why I almost think that this movie feels like a love letter, or like a love letter satire on the entirety of the fantasy genre while still being a genuine fantasy movie.
I think you touched on an important thing, Max, where it definitely, like, obviously, it makes a point of its influences from the very beginning because it, like, pans that she's got books like, I want to say Alice in Wonderland was in there. I know that The Wizard of
Peter
Oz
Pan.
for sure was in there. Yeah, it's that kind of world where it's definitely, and I think that the word, sorry to be a little stupid film student about this, but I think the word is pastiche, where it's not like a parody because it's not like making fun of, but it's kind of like being almost like a love letter tribute to it while kind of attempting to do new things. I
Yes.
think that, yeah, not to be incredibly annoying, but I think that like yeah, it feels like a beautiful fantasy pastiche, and I think it does it in a lot of like interesting ways where it's kind of like puts you in the place of Sarah, where you are learning as much about the world as she is pretty much at the same time. Because obviously it cuts away at points where like Sarah's like walking around with Hoggle and stuff. It points to David Bowie just hanging out with goblins and then casually dropping possibly one of the best like movie tie-in songs or like original songs for a movie ever conceived of because it so just transcends the movie. I'm sorry, Dance Magic, or Magic Dance, whichever order it is. My goodness me, if that's not just a fucking bop, even outside of just like wanting to listen to a Labyrinth song, like come on.
Dance, dance, magic dance. Ah, love that
You
movie. Oh my god,
Picture
can I
me
say
16,
about
just
dance?
rewinding it over and over again, jumping on my bed. That was me. That was
You were
my life.
Sarah at the end of the movie dancing with freaking Ludo.
oh my goodness, I have a
I have to
memory.
say what I love about Dance Magic Dance is that it almost like what I every time I watch Labyrinth, I think the same thing. This almost feels like a Bollywood movie when Dance Magic Dance comes on, because I've watched so many Bollywood movies where there's like so much plot happening and so much intense things happening, and then they just cut away to this awesome song that has really not that much to do with the story, and they're just all dancing and having a great time. That's like literally what happens. It literally felt like there are many like that moment specifically in this movie. I was like, did Jim just like watch a lot of Bollywood movies before this? Because this is some shit that they make in Bombay. Like, come on.
You messaged me this the other day and it kind of opened my third eye. And I think the thing that really like solidified that point to me in my head is some of the choreography where like the goblins like jump up in the air, like arms and legs start out, but they kind of like float up and float down a little bit. It's like, oh my God, that was just a Bollywood number, wasn't it? That was
They're
just a
all
1980s David
smiling.
Bowie synthy Bollywood number with little goopy little critters and a baby.
And
Like,
it's like, I love that it's like when I watch the Dance Magic Dance, it's not that it doesn't fit in the movie, because it does have plot relevance. Like, it is outlining David Bowie. It's showing him not, they're showing Jareth not to be this like horrible, will kill this baby kind of guy. They're showing they're characterizing him a little bit more to be this kind of like, a little bit more of a goofy figure, to have like some light behind him and all of that. But it's just random enough that when you're watching the movie, you're caught off guard and you're like, wait, what's happening? There's just like a dance stuff. Wait, whoa. I thought Sarah was in the labyrinth. Like, what the fuck?
Well, without it, it would be like a lot more serious, right? So it definitely adds to the whimsy and keeping it light and engaging. Also, just as a aside, I literally just learned this week. Y'all know who is the baby voice on that track? David.
Oh,
David Bowie
what?
does the baby?
Yeah, apparently Toby Froud was like, I'm a baby and I don't act because I'm literally a baby. And David Bowie was like, not acceptable.
Well, I'm gonna do the baby then.
All right, David, I'm gonna need you to cry like a baby for me.
I'm gonna research this afterwards and I'm gonna look quite silly if it's not the case.
Can I?
But the big thing that stuck out to me while watching Labyrinth is that I recognize the baby, not just because it's Toby Froud, and like he's like grown man now, and like obviously it's the Labyrinth baby. But I'm convinced I've seen that baby in something else, and I actually, oh my goodness, if this turns out to be wrong, I'm gonna be so embarrassed. But this was a movie that I grew up absolutely loving, and it came out around a similar time to Labyrinth, and I want to say that the baby from Labyrinth is the same baby from Ghostbusters 2. It looks exactly the same. I don't want to Google it while we're recording,
You
but
can't, yeah, how do I Google baby
Okay, but
comparisons
when
without it
it's
being
not
weird?
Will, Google that other person and see if he looks like Toby Froud.
if
Okay,
the
we got
babies
the
look
visual
similar.
reference here, Will.
There's
You
our
can use
baby
this
right
all you
there.
like.
Baby, if you happen to be if you're listening and you happen to be the baby from Ghostbusters 2, get in
Reach out
contact.
to us.
Reach out to us, because if you're also the baby from Labyrinth, then that helps me a lot because it saves me from having to Google while recording. But
I say,
I'm convinced because I watched Ghostbusters 2 so much as a kid, and I saw that baby and I was like, that looks like the Ghostbusters baby. I've been wrong about this kind of thing before, but it could well be.
Will, can I ask you? You said something about Toby Froud where you were like, "Oh yeah, as an adult, he's the Labyrinth baby." Does he get recognized as like the Labyrinth baby the same way the Nirvana baby does? Because okay, I got this Labyrinth visual guide for Christmas, which is incredible, beautiful book, so many elements from behind the scenes, great research for this podcast. But the forward is by the freaking adult baby man who was in this movie, where I'm like, okay, that's like if you're listening to Nirvana and the intro, like the start of the album goes like, hey man, I was the baby on the album and welcome to the Nirvana. Like, I don't care what the baby has to say. You don't even remember being in this movie. What the hell?
No, you know what? That's disrespectful because if I was the Labyrinth baby, I'd tell everybody about it.
I know,
I
but I gotta ask, does he get recognized as like the Labyrinth baby? Why is he the forward of this book?
I mean, he definitely
Because
he was
he's so involved in Henson still, right? So he worked for Leica and was
Oh, is
a
he?
sculptor for them, and then he did a lot with his parents, Brian and Wendy, for the new Dark Crystal.
Oh,
Um,
that's
because Brian
awesome.
Froud wrote like the no, he did the original sketches for Dark Crystal, didn't he?
Yeah,
Brian Froud, his
Yeah,
dad,
Brian, his father, Brian,
his
yeah.
that's
father.
so
So his
awesome.
so Toby was in the movie basically because Brian and Wendy were working on the film
Mm.
with Jim, and they needed a baby, and
They were like, "Oh,
So we got one.
I got one of those somewhere lying
We
around at
got one of
home.
those at home.
I can bring it into
just
work."
happen to have one.
Oh, there's
Like
always one of those kicking
but
around the
thank you
house.
for
I'll bring it in.
explaining. Thank you so much for explaining that because the Labyrinth book here really doesn't get into his
Like,
career
why?
at all.
Why is this man relevant?
It
He doesn't
literally makes it
remember he
seem
was a
like
baby.
this book makes it seem thank you for giving some context because I'm sure he's an extremely talented person that's done a lot within puppetry and animation, but this damn book makes it seem like the only thing he did in life was be the Labyrinth baby. Like, are you kidding me?
He
You know
must.
what?
He,
If I was the Labyrinth baby, and even if I didn't remember, I'd just be making shit up. Honestly,
Yeah,
I'd
same.
be like, "Oh yeah, like set was crazy." You know, me and Jim were always sort of like chatting it up between scenes. It
Yeah,
was
me and
crazy
Jim, we used to
times.
get
Yeah,
tight with it.
craft
I've
service was
never heard
great.
Toby Froud say this, but I've heard a lot of other people say that Toby Froud has said that he remembers peeing on David Bowie. That has to be made up. Like, you were a baby.
God, there's no way you
You never
remember
said that
that.
to anyone.
That's got to be one of those like cinema urban legends, or it's
Yeah.
like one of those things that you like that you
Or
point
maybe
at.
his parents told him, so he remembers his parents telling him, but like, God, that's embarrassing.
That could be
Dude,
it. But like,
imagine,
oh
oh
my,
my God, imagine like being like a person who's known for being like a baby in a movie, and somebody in your personal life is like, oh, do you know what would be really funny? I'm gonna Mandela effect this guy into thinking that he had like a crazy moment on set because there's no way
yeah,
that
dude,
he'd
you pissed
remember.
on David Bowie. Don't you
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
that?
do you remember
You
that time
totally
that you
did that.
definitely pissed on David Bowie? That happened.
You did
I
that, bro.
that happened. That's such a cruel psychological game, being a famous baby and having people in your life Mandela effect set stories
Yeah,
about you.
trick
That's
you.
insane.
Can I say in talking about like famous children of people who worked on this movie, Brian Henson is super involved in this movie. Brian
Yeah,
Henson
Brian.
was the puppet coordinator for the very first time. So at this point, Brian Henson is about 22 years old. He had worked with Henson in the past. He'd worked on other puppetry projects, been a producer on other films, and and not to put any words into Brian's mouth or the Henson family's mouth in any capacity, but it really was at a point where Brian was like trying to prove himself to be a talented puppeteer beyond just being like the son of Jim Henson. And quite frankly, Jim, like did not really include Brian to the degree because he wanted Brian to really get some experience doing this work himself before allowing him to come onto the project in this major capacity. But Labyrinth is the very first time where Brian is in this like hardcore big role as the puppet coordinator. He's the one who had to really like, they basically make it seem like Brian Henson, even though Faz Fazakis and a bunch of other really incredible and talented people who work in like the electrical side of the puppetry for like Hoggle and all that, they really make it seem like Brian Henson was like, I'm making this damn animatronic type puppet. I'm roboting the hell out of it. They make Brian Henson seem like a damn genius making this movie, and he kind of deserves it. He kills it in this.
I've heard Brian, like at public events or whatever, basically say that there was a time where he kind of like resented puppetry and he was like, nah, that's my dad's thing, whatever. But he came into it like where like obviously he ended up working with his dad on stuff because he ended up being really interested by the animatronics and the technology of it. And yeah, I think, you know, they were always bolstering him up. So when he took the road as the role as like puppeteer captain, like it's a big deal. And Hoggle being like such a advanced, I forget how many servos or they said that they had. Is like 200 sound like an exaggeration? I don't know. I think that's right.
I'm gonna
So
pretend like I know things about animatronics. Oh yeah,
And
that
I
sounds
know
about
about
right.
the electricity.
I think 200. It's probably like 20, it's 20 or 200. Definitely one of the two.
Lots of numbers.
Hmm. But like
It's
Brian's influence on like this movie is such like it's done such an impressive scale because this was kind of like a big like step in terms of the kind of production level that like Henson had been working on prior because like in terms of his cinematic ventures, it was three Muppet movies. I want to say this was the Labyrinth was post Manhattan.
Mhm.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 2 years after
It was
Manhattan.
after Dark Crystal in Manhattan.
After Dark Crystal in Manhattan. So it had been like three Muppet pictures and then like a big one that was like practical hand to hand like puppetry with Dark Crystal. Like the amount of animatronic work that went into this and just like it's there is such a sense of increased scale in this movie. Like not even just in like the world, the fact that you've got human actors like acting with puppets, which like is not a thing that's a stranger to Henson Productions. Obviously, they had to do it throughout the three major Muppet pictures, but like it's immersed in this world now as well. It's just fundamentally different. Having a human actor be in a complete other world, but and have it be so immersive and it not feel like, oh, this is a person walking around a set talking to like people with their hands in socks. It really sinks you into it. And Brian's work on this is just it's absolutely immense. Every individual puppeteer and voice actor and like technician and everybody it just everybody's so delivered on this movie. And it kind of was a brilliant precursor to the kind of the Brian era of the Muppets. Because like he had a very dis like his time kind of like at the helm of the Muppets. It was like post Jim passing and pre the Disney acquisition. He really kind of like made it his own. And there were like when you've got things like Muppets from Space and you've got Christmas Carol and Treasure Island, you get that sense of like increased depth of scale where the worlds are a lot more immersive. This is not the Muppets like interacting in the real world. They are in like in whole other worlds. And
I
I
think
yeah, I think this was a brilliant precursor to exactly what effect Brian was going to have on the production value of like Henson properties going forward.
I think you make such an incredible point here. I'm eating up every fucking word you're putting down here because, like, I think you make such a great, distinct point with the through line between movies like Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, directly influencing the way that Brian directed the next Muppet movies. As Will said, most of the Muppet movies of past are literally it's just the Muppets in the real world. Muppet movie, Caper, and Manhattan is them interacting within our real world. Labyrinth and Dark Crystal made a big departure where there's these fantastical, practically made sets. There's gigantically, like, miniatures on a huge scale, that they're making seem like big cities. They're doing one of my favorite techniques that are used in these movies that they don't really use in a lot of other ones is that they do giant like Ghibli style 2D paintings of the world that they like do when they pan out to like kind of show the like the full depth. But then when you get to something like Christmas Carol and Treasure Island, those movies are fully on sets. Those are fully made on practical sets. And it really, obviously, like a movie like Treasure Island is way different than Labyrinth, but they both, I think, there was a lesson learned within the Henson Company that like really to immerse your audience, to immerse people within these unique puppets and these incredible to really emphasize the human madeness of everything, the passion and the love that goes into every aspect of these. Doing them on these like contained sets not only makes you feel like more immersed in the world, but it really makes you kind of feel like you're trapped within this world. Like in Dark Crystal, like you kind of like you're watching Kira and Jen experience the Dark Crystal, the experience like the movie. But in Labyrinth, you really feel like you're Sarah within this. You feel like you're in some alien world that you've been thrown into. You're meeting all of these worms and hoggles and Didymuses and everything, and it feels foreign and new, and I think they achieve it very well.
I'd love to talk a little bit about Hoggle. So Hoggle being, the character that Brian Henson voiced. He was one of many puppeteers that were controlling the servos via remote control, and then Sherry Weiser being the body puppeteer, right, within Hoggle. I guess like maybe people who saw the 40th release in theaters, like maybe only in US and Canada, you got to see the Thamescon intro. And I actually didn't even get to see Brian Henson say this because I was busy getting Trevor Jones' autograph. But he was saying that the way that Hoggle worked was, well, first they tried to put like a little camera in Hoggle, like they do for Big Bird, but it just wasn't working. And Sherry was like nauseous. So they painted her face black. And then she could only see when Hoggle's mouth was open. And so that's basically how Hoggle got his like little weird idiosyncrasies, like kind of like running up to a wall, And it was
That's really fun.
That's
She was
crazy.
about to walk into a wall.
That sounds like a production nightmare, but it's a very fun like little tidbit.
It's like, wow, what an interesting choice you made as Hoggle. How did you kind of come up with that? I couldn't see. I was
had
just
no
running out
choice.
balls.
I was fucked. I was in a big old head. I was taking
gotta
my
make
life in my hands.
A point I really wanted to make about Hoggle that I kind of referenced earlier in the podcast. And when I was talking about Labyrinth being a love letter to fantasy and almost like a satire on fantasy in like a loving way, they're a part of like a Wizard of Oz, a part of a lot of fantasy movies. It kind of sticks clearly to like the whole concept of the hero's journey. And, the idea that like the hero comes into this fantastical world, they meet a wise man that tells them of their mission, and then they kind of go off and they meet new people, and then they grow and they learn, they face challenges, they almost give up, and then they come back in the end. That is exactly how Labyrinth goes. That is also kind of almost exactly how Dark Crystal goes. And like you can point to a lot of fantasy movies following that hero's journey. Hoggle very much takes the place of like the wise man near the start that explains the world, explains the stakes of the area, and kind of becomes the like wise figure for the lead to follow. What I love that this movie does is that it totally subverts the usual idea of what that is. Even in Dark Crystal, Agra, yeah, she's like a little creepy, but Agra still is like an old wise person that has the info. They have the heavens all laid out. They know what they're talking about. Fucking, we run into Hoggle, and Sarah just stumbles on. He's just pissing. He's pissing, and he's eating fairies. And he doesn't come up to Sarah like Gandalf smoking a pipe, like there are like a labyrinth that you must follow, Sarah, and here is what you need. It's very much like he's pissing, he's eating, he's just like, what the fuck do you want, Sarah? Yeah, there's
He's like bug spraying fairies on the wall. Like these things fucking suck, man.
It's like, and him doing the direct act of pissing on the labyrinth and eating the fairies, these creatures that are always thought of, these like
I don't think he was eating was he eating I thought he was just, he had like his little spray.
You know what I mean? Smashing, yeah.
He was bug spraying them.
bug spray. Regardless, getting rid of the fairies, which are such distinctly these beautiful creatures within fantasy movies, it almost feels like Henson, Froud. Everyone is like pissing and killing the idea of what the wise person's role is and the idea of these usual fantasy tropes and completely subverting it. And so that's why I almost feel like this movie, yes, it's a love letter to all of that, but it is also like a commentary on the fantasy genre where Hoggle,
really
the wise person, literally pisses on the start of the hero's journey.
it's really more like a buddy film, buddy
Yeah.
cop film. I don't know. I heard Brian Henson refer to Hoggle as the second lead.
It kind of is that. And I'm glad that we kind of segued from this because we talked about the villain and we've talked about kind of like the world and like the scale of it. But what I really would love to talk about is like our core cast of characters. And I think starting with Hoggle is really good because he's fun in his design. I personally like his voice because I think the primary like influence of his accent is the part of England that I'm from, like the Southwest. I've met like people who sound like Hoggle. My Gramp sounds a little bit like Hoggle. Um, it's like and that's very fun. I love
Well, they wanted it to be a Cockney accent, and Brian Henson was like, nah.
no, actually
Yeah.
he's a little bit West Country. He's a little, all right, I'm Hoggle. All right, I've seen people in orchards who look and sound like Hoggle, just like 5 minutes from where I used to live. But yeah, Hoggle is like a really fun like first character to be sort of like introduced to because it's like there's so many things about this movie that, as Max has made the point many times, are subversive because usually the kind of character that Hoggle is because he's like he lacks confidence and he is like a coward and obviously that's a journey that he overcomes by the end of the movie. But usually the stance that he takes, and I was worried that it was gonna take that turn at a point in the movie, but I don't think it's necessarily romantic. And I like that. I like a sort of like platonic, strong bond. And I think that's one of the things that this movie does really good is this sort of like this bond between the main cast. I really love a strong platonic bond. That's just my reading of it.
Just
I could be.
realize something. If we're
Mhm.
going with the whole Wizard of an Oz analogy, Hoggle, coward, cowardly lion.
Yeah, I was thinking the
Didymus,
same thing.
tough as nails, can't see, the forest for the trees, heartless, Tin Man. And so Ludo, sadly, I guess, no brains, but real
Ludo's
smart. That's how to call rocks. So it's lies. It's all lies. He's real
Yeah,
smart.
he's I love him. He's so good. But
I
yeah,
think
Hoggle's a
Will.
fun. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say Will makes an excellent point about the idea of this movie having like a really strong cast of like platonic friends who care about each other. One of the things I love about this movie is that like, I've seen some criticisms of this where people are kind of they say that like Sarah's relationship with like Ludo and Sir Didymus and all these people feel unearned. And I absolutely disagree with that. I disagree with that fully. I think that all of these characters, like in pretty much any fantasy movie, like again, going back to the Wizard of Oz analogy, Dorothy is going along the yellow brick road and kind of stumbles upon each person and they kind of join her little gaggle to take down the Goblin King. I mean, to take down, the Goblin King in this movie. That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. And so, yeah, as we've talked about Hoggle, I think he's an incredible subversion of the usual kind of like first initial wise person that you meet on your journey. He's cowardly, he's all of those things. And then, like, we meet Ludo. Like, Ludo is such a great character that I understand why so many people watch this and Ludo is their favorite and he's on so much of the merch. Like, Ludo kicks ass. Great character.
He's
Wait,
so
wait, wait.
sweet.
We know who Will's favorite is of the three.
I
We know, but I don't know Max's.
Oh, my favorite is Sir Didymus.
Sir Didymus!
I fucking love Sir Didymus so much.
Well, I knew this was going to come up, and like I know our chat said the Sir Didymus fan club, and I know you made that whole post, Will, but Sir Didymus is my least favorite of.
Really?
Thanks so
Y'all know
much
who
for
my
coming
favorite
by,
is? Y'all
everybody.
know who my favorite is?
We're gonna end the episode here. Everybody say bye-bye to Brit. Don't
Oh
thank her for coming.
no!
Oh my God.
Oh, I love Hoggle. Hoggle's my
That's
favorite.
so cool.
Hoggle's always been my favorite.
The
You're
Brian
allowed.
Henson signed Hoggle. That's great.
That's a
Same.
flex.
I currently dislike Sir Didymus. I'm just saying maybe for the majority of my life I did.
Ah.
You were a
Oh my
Didymus
gosh.
hater?
For I
You
I
were a
kind of
hater.
I love Sir Didymus. He is like my favorite, but I understand why someone wouldn't like him. It's like here's the thing. In Princess Bride, my favorite character is Amigo Montoro. You know, I love,
Yeah, but
but
Inigo Montoya's great, and he's Didymus pilled. They're on the same
exactly that.
wavelength.
But I love Didymus, but I understand how someone can watch that and see the whole like, oh, I'm gonna swing my sword and I'm gonna do all the things and da 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 as like getting a little much.
I
But I
spent
love Didymus.
I spent a long period of my life thinking I wasn't a type A person, and I think maybe I wasn't. I know I am now, and I do connect and identify with Sir Didymus now because to many people I am Sir Didymus. But when I was a kid, for sure, I was like, "What up, dude? Like, let him go. Let them go."
Stop trying to stop them.
Also, I'm a cat
Listen,
person, not a dog person,
Oh,
so that was influencing it for sure.
here's the thing.
you're allowed to be a cat person, but
Don't let David Bowie, my dog, hear that, but it's true.
don't listen. You're allowed to be a cat person. I myself am a big advocate for cats and cat people as somebody who is a dog person, but do not let your pet persuasion besmirch my goat. I'm sorry.
Can I
We're gonna
say
segue to Didymus right now. He sucks. He's useless. He is a hindrance to the plot temporarily. I'm obsessed with him. He's so annoying. But like, oh my God, I am so fond of him. He's the absolute worst. He
Thorn
does
in your side?
nothing.
Yes, that's what I want.
I'm such an advocate for just like losers. I
I
love
think
He's such a
Didymus is
loser, but he's so confident. He's so like I'm the fucking baddest. I'm the fucking like nobody around here has got shit
This
on me.
bog doesn't
the,
stink, and neither does my shit. So
Yeah, literally
the
like
thing
he's
Didymus, the thing
so
with me for him is that like I think he's a perfect example of Henson making really, really endearing characters where like Will's right, Didymus adds nothing to the team. In the final fight scene, he just gets chased around. He doesn't really do anything like that. Ambrosia just gets scared. He spends the whole damn time trying to get Ambrosia back. But I think he's a great example of Henson making these insanely endearing characters who just have so much heart to them and have so much personality that you don't even like. When I watch Labyrinth, I don't care that Didymus isn't helping or he's being a little annoying. I'm just going like, oh, he's so cute, he's so awesome, he's so well portrayed. And another point I want to make with him and specifically Ambrosia, because Sir Didymus is riding Ambrosia. I fucking love the move to one. I know it's Sarah's dog from the start of the movie, but having a real dog and not a Muppet dog just be this like creature for a Muppet to ride throughout a movie.
dog Muppet.
Why
Dog
haven't they
Muppet.
done that
my
more? Muppet riding dog is one of the best things I've ever seen.
part of my obsession with Didymus comes from just how like technically impressive that he continues to get. Because
Yeah.
first of all, it's like, oh, that's a fun little critter. I love a fun little critter. And then he joins the team and he was like, cool, I'm gonna bring my ride. And now not only do you have to create a like you have to accurately and like convincingly portray like this little dude that's riding around on a dog, but you also have to adapt to the fact that this is a dog. And I rewatched Labyrinth after watching it in the movies just so I could try and catch the moments because like on first watch I was like they did this pretty well and for like in the 80s this would have been seamless and nobody would have been able to tell. But there I tried to catch the points where it transitions from real dog with just like a essentially a plushie on its back, real dog with just like a taxidermy Didymus on its back to like creature dog for certain shots where they needed to like act in a certain way to Muppet Dog because I swear they have three different Ambrosiuses
They do, yeah.
and like I and oh my God because I know the Goals portrayed um Didymus and Whitmire Fork Found in Kitchen is playing a Muppet Dog again because I want to say that this is his like third major dog role under his belt because it was Sprocket it was Fufu
Typecast.
and Ambrosius. Yeah, typecast as like the dog.
Ah,
And like credit to him, he woofs a good woof. So so it was like, yeah, who else
You
are
know,
you gonna get to do it?
I feel that, and maybe it's literally this last watching. I was watching the fight scene with Sir Didymus, and with through puppeteer eyes, I was a little bit like, when they throw that fake baby Toby up in the air for Dance Magic Dance, especially on the big screen, it's like, all right. But
Yeah,
like
that was
the
cute. Don't do
a
it
Sir
again.
Didymus jumping around, like they have like a boing spring like noise when he like jumps like and lands in this other area, unclockable.
yeah,
He
it's
because not only
it's
is he
just
just like the goat, he is my king. I will worship him forever. He is and probably one of the more impressive feats of puppetry in this movie. Just his him and Ambrosius and just like making him a convincing like character that is present around. Just like the fact
Well,
that how much like
non-animatronic puppetry because
mm.
Hoggle's obviously the best. So
Obviously he's like it's like it's Didymus and then it's like I want to say it's like Didymus um Ludo Hoggle because Ludo's obviously a massively impressive undertaking but Hoggle's animatronics it's like oh my god that takes the cake.
I think what's really successful about Didymus is obviously we're three puppet nerds here who are like nerding out about how crazy it is that Didymus was able to do all of these things. I think Didymus is one of the most fluid, successfully done puppets they've ever done in the movie. However, I think what makes Didymus so successful is that I feel like most people watching would just not think about any of it. I think with like a Hoggle, it's pretty people watch Labyrinth and go like, whoa, how the fuck they did that. But Didymus is so smooth and feels so classic Henson in the way that he's being portrayed while also being so experimental. I think he is the most successfully done puppetry in this movie in the sense where I don't think anybody watching besides like Henson nerds are watching and going like, are thinking anything besides this guy is fucking just bouncing around and doing all these silly things. I love Didymus. I love Ambrosia. I also just love Ambrosia because Ambrosia reminds me of my childhood dogs, and I'm like, hell yeah, I love seeing like a fluffy, sheepy looking dog running around. Makes me happy.
I do have a big problem with Didymus however
Okay.
because like I know I just said like oh he sucks he's the worst he's an asshole I love him.
Okay.
That's not the problem that I have with Didymus. The problem that I have with Didymus is that he gets left out of all of the merch. There
Um,
is not a single piece of like Didymus merch that I have been able to get my hands on.
I
Because
put this
it's
out just for you.
what's that?
I put this out just for you because I knew you loved the Didymus. He's
Where
on the
is
back.
he? I don't see him.
Right. Well, he's on a sweater. Can you see it?
Ah,
Oh, I don't see him. Oh, I thought you were rubbing it in my face, pointing at the Ludo backpack because it was like, oh,
No,
Michael
underneath
gets
it.
merch.
Underneath it, it's a sweater by I mean it's one thing, so
Oh
not
wait,
your
I
point
see
is
his
well
tash.
taken.
I
But
see his
it's the Truffle
tash.
Shuffle sweater. They have Didymus on the back. That's the one piece of Didymus merch I have because yeah, I think you're totally right.
Hey, listen,
He's
I'm not a Funko Pop
Ambrosia!
collector. I'm not a Funko Pop collector, but I would have bought a Didymus Funko Pop. Like, I'm
Hmm,
sorry,
Can I ask a
I would.
question?
They don't make Didymus
right.
anything.
You're right.
Nobody draws him. Nobody sells prints of him. Everybody wants to draw Hoggle and Ludo. Nobody
I
wants. Gets involved with my goat Didymus. Yeah, look, he's the smallest one on there.
Truffle Shuffle is like the only people looking out for Didymus. Period.
I
Besides
just
me.
I gotta in jumping back to the movie. Sorry, not to jump off of the merch discussion here, but I'm trying to get back to this movie. I want to ask a question to y'all. Is that what do you think? Does it bother you at all that Sarah meets Ambrosia and doesn't clock it as her own dog? Like, do you think that she's too separated from like, where it's like? Did you think like they're that always it's not like it's bothered me when I watch it, but every time I see Labyrinth, I'm like, dude, Sarah, that's your dog.
That bothers you, but not that the Goblin King is literally a maquette on her table and she has
Yeah,
like a
all of that and the
ball.
fireys are all the thing. I'm just like, I guess for me, it's like Sarah. The whole time I'm watching, I'm like, Sarah, girl, how do you not?
Diva.
This is all your shit, bro.
That's really funny.
It's the same thing as
I,
Wizard of Oz. Like that is the guy that works at your farm. What is wrong with you, girl?
I
Literally.
He
I
literally
think that's
says the same line.
I I think that's why I didn't sort of like take issue with it because I think at that, especially at the point that she's at in that movie, it's just like suspension of disbelief is the only way that she can progress. Because if I had gone through the fucking fiery sequence, I wouldn't remember my own name, let alone if I had a dog. Um,
I think with
yeah.
Sarah, it's just particularly funny because I feel like she's able to connect shit back to the real world where she's like, see, this is like my little plastic thing and is explaining the concept of like plastic, but then she doesn't like recognize her own fucking dog. And I'm like, okay, girl, what do you know as to be reality versus fucking the labyrinth?
I yeah, I think it's that kind of Wizard of Oz thing where it's like, yeah, there's obviously like massively familiar shit, but I think she's just got a little bit too much going on at the moment to process it. I think because she's like, if I was going through all of that and there was a dog that looked exactly like my dog, but somebody was calling it by a different name, I'd be like,
I'd be
what
like,
the
that's
hell,
not my
sure, that's
dog.
a different dog. What the hell, sure. Yes, yes, it like recognizes me and looks exactly like my dog and moves and sniffs exactly like my dog.
He says
But
it's
he
his
called that
dog's name,
Ambrosius. That can't be
right? Like,
mine.
does her name? Yeah, it does. Merlin is her dog's name. Yeah.
Merlin is her dog's name,
I
which is
also,
another.
That's Ambrosius, not Merlin. God, he just said
Yeah,
it.
can I,
he's got a different name.
in talking about Sarah and just Sarah and her characterization, I think she is like so great, and I think she does learn a lot and grows throughout the movie. But Sarah constantly, like a constant theme of this movie, is her not learning the lessons that she's supposed to learn from the labyrinth. Every damn turn, she learns to like use her surroundings and to like to trust her gut and to like trust her new friends. And then she gets to the next thing and she's like, what do I do? I love this movie, but I feel like every scene when she meets the Fireys, when she falls down into the like the pit with all the hands, like when she meets Ludo, when she meets each person, it feels like Sarah forgetting the thing she just learned 2 seconds ago.
I think when I was a kid watching it, and then they would keep using the phrase "you take too many things for granted." Hoggle's like the first one that I think says it to her, and then she maybe says it later. And then the other big thing is that she keeps saying things are not fair, right? So she takes it for granted that things should work out for her. That was not something I put too much thought into as a kid, but and maybe I haven't thought about it too much as an adult. I think it just works, like um she is like she's being a little bit older than she's ready to be, right? And then that's the conflict of the story. And when she sort of takes a step back and is like, okay, I'm actually 15 and maybe I don't know everything and maybe I should like listen to these other people and like take other insight and like consider other scenarios, and then she does a little bit better.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that we're zeroing in on Sarah because I really wanted to talk about Sarah. She is such a compelling and like fun to follow protagonist, especially
Mhm.
with how one of the things that I praised about the Dark Crystal is how because obviously there's so much going on and they're trying to cram so much in. I think they learned lessons from the Dark Crystal that I think paid off a little bit better in Labyrinth. But one of the things that definitely carries over is how quick they are to establish character. When you
Yeah.
first meet Sarah, you learn uh, pretty much everything you need to know about Sarah to get used to her as a protagonist. Where the fact that she's out and like living in like her fantasy, doing her lines out in a park, and like letting go of her responsibility. She's got to be at home to like take care of a baby. She is being irresponsible. She is like not got like the perspective of like not everything can work out the exact way that you want it to. And I think her learning that lesson throughout the labyrinth, but as Max said, occasionally faltering and occasionally failing. I think that makes a really compelling protagonist because it means that the second that she like learns a lesson, she's not immediately dialed in, like she is flawed and she is actively still learning. And by the end, I think she gets there, but it's like she's incredibly compelling to follow.
I
And
think
Jennifer Connelly is just for especially for like such
Diva.
a she must have been quite young doing this. I think she would have only been in like her like teens or 20s, I can imagine. Was just absolutely
she was a
incredible.
teenager. She was like 16 or something.
Just like genuinely incredible. And yeah, what a protagonist to follow around because we Max and I and Shelby in our Dark Crystal one, we criticized Jem as a protagonist a little bit because he's kind of, and I love using this word, he's kind of a nothing burger protagonist because he just kind of like happens to be the person that all of the events are folding around. He is just
Stumbles
stumbling
through.
through. Plot is happening to him, and largely he's getting help from somebody else.
Yeah.
But Sarah has to continuously learn lessons for herself and fail and get in dangerous situations and have to get herself out of them. Obviously by relying and trusting in her new friends. But she is just so interesting and arguably one of the better protagonists in like the Henson sort of cinematic sphere.
And just to put like two concrete examples to that I'm like thinking of while we're talking about it, like she didn't listen, she didn't ask any questions with the word, right? Like the dude can't point. And then secondly, I used to blow my mind like the whole doorman thing because it's like, wait, didn't she get it right? So what happened? So if you like freeze the frame, it's just that she got it right. She goes through the door and doesn't notice that she needs to hop over a freaking hole. If she had just hopped over the freaking hole, I think that it was the right door because she did solve the riddle correctly as we know it. So she's just like, it's a piece of cake. Doesn't look.
See, I think that is a really fantastic kind of portrayal of the way I think Sarah is portrayed to be entitled to the good outcomes that she has in her life. And then throughout the movie, she learns that, like, she needs to be more grateful. She needs to learn that to, like, not be as entitled, all of those things. If she had just, like, got out of her head for a second and looked down at the hole, she would have fallen through. I think Will brought up, like, jumping back to something Will said earlier about how you know everything you need to know about Sarah from like the first 5 minutes of the movie. I think they do a fantastic job in portraying Sarah as and part of the reason to me, why and when in talking about like David Bowie and talking about like the creepiness of this movie and everything, I think they do a great job at the start of portraying Sarah to not be an adult, not to be this like big, like person with all these things figured out. They make it very clear, she's a whiny, entitled teenage girl who just wants to stay home and like practice her little play instead of babysitting her brother. And then she gets thrown into the labyrinth. I really think they don't portray her as some like they portray her very genuinely. They portray her as like what like I can see myself at that age and like the mindset I went about things. And it's a very distinct coming of age story in the sense that like, yeah, Sarah, you know everything to know about her from the beginning. You understand what she's about, and as they're throughout the labyrinth, it really, I think, is successfully influences her character versus like a Jen in a Dark Crystal where like literally nothing happens to his character and he does not grow to the end of the movie.
Something I didn't pick up on until this year, and it had gotten pointed out to me by my friend Bloom. I don't know if it's in the manga or she's just more observant than me, but um, part of the reason why Sarah wants to be an actress is because her deceased mom, who presumably she is still grieving and now has this new stepmom who, it's that her mom or maybe her mom moved away. I don't know actually, but her mom's not in her life, and there's all these clues that her mom was an actress. They have like her mug shots and
Mugshot.
Don't they have her
not mug shot. Oh my God.
Don't they have a photo of her mom with David
Yeah,
Bowie?
she was in, like, I love my actor mom. She's in jail right now.
Call it when you're an actor and you give your
Headshots.
Wait, I just want to say,
That's really good.
isn't there a photo of Sarah's mom with David Bowie, like with the Jareth guy at the
I
start of the
thought
movie
it
or the
was.
end?
I
I'm
thought
sure
it
you're
was.
right. I like literally never paid attention to any of those photos.
And so that's why, to me, I think you're right that it's like, yeah, she maybe
But that's
in
the
that
man
kind of
she ran off with, the mom. Oh.
Oh
see,
my
that's where
God.
the kind of concept we brought up earlier that this is all kind of manifested by Sarah, all things that are in her room, everything. This could totally be her way of just like working through this movie, could just be Sarah's way of working through all of these things and getting to trying to learn to love her new stepbrother after like everything happened with her mom and this goblin king who manipulated her and took her out of the family.
My mom didn't run away to be a famous actress and date some movie star. I did.
Literally.
That's for me.
And I wish they would take that, take away my baby brother. And then she learns. And then she learns.
What a like bombshell for us to drop on ourselves. Mid-record. That's crazy.
40 years later.
Oh my God. Yeah, Brian Henson's like sat at home right now, like, oh my God, somebody got it.
Someone write it down for them. Come on.
Oh my goodness. But
I
yeah,
also I found out, sorry, not to like jump back. I kind of was briefly just like flipping through this Labyrinth
Mhm.
visual guide to see if there was anything worth pointing out for this podcast. Apparently, Kevin Clash did a lot of the right arming on Ambrosia, and I
Mhm.
didn't even realize that. I didn't know he was even involved in this movie. But
Oh yeah,
apparently,
fiery too. Mhm.
yeah, he is a
Oh yeah, I was
fiery.
gonna say he's got a
Oh,
quick
you're
charger.
so right.
Isn't
He
he
is a
the
fiery. I
doorman
totally forgot about that.
too? I forget. Dave Goles is one of the doormen in a fiery, and then Kevin Clash is a fiery.
Pretty
Because this was kind
sure.
of like, I guess this and Sesame were kind of like a big sense of initiation for Clash. Because it was just pre like he was just about to join like the core Muppet cast because like they were kind of soft launching Clifford, and then obviously when Muppets Tonight came around he got a lot more sort of like Muppet characters, a lot of them unfortunately short-lived, but like was this 86, was that pre Elmo?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think Elmo came out until I was
Gotta
like
be.
something.
It's
So
gotta be,
I was
right?
about to
Because
say
I
that's
don't think he
gotta be
came around until like the
pre-Elmo.
late 80s, early 90s.
There,
yeah.
yeah,
This must
I
yeah.
I think it's super interesting. One, how a lot like Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, the sheer amount of puppeteers that it took to pull off something like that. I think it's super interesting. When I saw Kevin in here, I was like, wait, I forgot that he was in this movie. And there's just like such a sheer amount of people involved. And I think that's so impressive about a Henson dark fantasy movie, all of the hands that are involved. But I'm trying to think of like more characters that like are like we've gotten kind of into the cast, the core cast of Sarah, Didymus, Ludo, and Hoggle. And then we meet some other characters throughout the lab.
I want to say something, and it's
Mm.
going to be immensely controversial, and you guys might dislike me immensely for it, but I got beef with the character in particular.
Which character?
I'm scared.
Fuck that worm. Why does he get all the fucking merchandise?
Disagree. Worm's great. Worm's awesome.
The amount of merch that Worm gets, double it, give it to Didymus. I'm sorry. That
Well,
the amount
I
of
think is your
merchandise and
issue.
like how marketable that worm is, I had been led to believe that he had a much bigger part in the story. That no,
You're like a main character, probably the villain.
he's the little baby Yoda mascot Chungus of the
Yeah.
1980s.
No,
Like,
literally.
sorry,
I agree with
fuck that
you.
worm. Fuck
I
that
think
worm.
it's like I like the worm because even though like I agree with you that they've made him the mascot of this movie when he's in this thing for like 15 fucking seconds. But I guess it's like I would agree, but I guess I don't. I think his character in the movie, I don't think the merchandising thing affects me because I just don't really buy that much
That's
Labyrinth.
because they make stuff of like characters that you like.
When I was a
I
kid,
just
I know I didn't give a crap about the worm. When I was in high school, my best friend was obsessed with the worm, and she was like, hello, have a cup of tea. And I'd be like, I don't remember that part of the movie. We need to watch it. So I kind of agree. I kind of agree. But now I'm all about it.
Pissing me
I'm
off
pro
because you know
worm.
what? Fizzgig gets a lot of merch, but at least Fizzgig stuck around for the rest of the movie. At
You
least
know what I
Fizzgig
want
showed up.
more merch of is the lichen eyes. I think those are really cool. Also,
Mm.
on the big screen, just like basically dying for my opportunity to say this, I swear to God, the first lichen eyes that you see, I'd never noticed this before, but on the big screen, I was just like, those are googly eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
True.
they have all these animatronic ones that we see later next to the worm, but like the first ones we see, googly eyes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, straight up.
like
I want to
there's
talk.
merged characters, there's heavily merged characters. Like I understand it. Ludo, he's a big softie. Everybody wants a big cuddly Ludo. I
Teddy bear.
get it. Hoggle, he's like the main guy. I get it. Jareth, yeah, there's a market for Jareth body pillows. What the hell, sure. Even the Fireys, because they have like an iconic sequence, like an iconic freaky sequence. And it's one of those things where it's like, ooh, you know, this scene traumatized children, and I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I watched it, and I'm like, you know what? I can understand how a kid from the 80s could not like be okay. We could not move past this for like a long time. It's like the idea of like giving a Victorian child like McDonald's Sprite. It's like, yeah, yeah, I get why like a kid from the 80s would have their like
Wait,
world.
but have you heard people say this? Because the Fireys were my second favorite character. Maybe actually they were my favorite over Hoggle, actually, now that
Oh,
I
I
think
fuck
about it.
heavy with the Fireys, but like I can get why an 80s kid would be freaked out by
No,
them.
I wasn't though. I was a kid. I was a child and I loved them. Were people
We
freaked
have
out?
someone who was a child in the 80s who can
I was
attest
a
to
Oh, well,
this.
child. I was
I
literally
defer.
a child.
Well, I mean, well, let's
You would be freaked out. You assume
look
you would be freaked out.
look at you and look at your background. I don't know if you're like you're not the average audience goer. You're about this
What are
life.
you trying to
You are
say?
What makes you
Spell it
think
out
that?
for me.
I want you to move your head a little bit to the left or right if that's okay. That's what I'm saying. Look, there's a giant fiery in your backdrop.
I made
Um,
that. That's my fiery purse I made.
I love
That's a
it.
purse?
It's
Oh my
so
God, wait, that's so
gorge.
And
cute.
this is the picture of Jennifer Connelly with the Fireys. I've owned that oh, well, I'm not even pointing to it. I've owned that like what do you call those? Since I not a mug shot, not a
Not a headshot. Like a from a press kit.
it's a
I
press kit. I've owned that for like
We're gonna once again issue our apology to audio listeners. We're gonna get you something
Yeah,
exclusive
we'll get
because
you some
every
stuff.
time we do an episode, we always do some kind of visual that our audio listeners just don't get to see. Sorry, if you're a YouTube watcher, then like this is for you. But
I pointed to something epic. You'll find out later.
Can I
we're gonna do
say,
something just for
I
you
don't,
guys one day.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to just be a little bitch here, but I do want to move off of merch discussion. Every time the merch discussion comes up, I'm like, I have so much to say about the movie. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. Listen. I'm just bitter about Didymus. I can't
I
get
get
over
it. I totally get it. I'm glad y'all brought up the Fireys though, because this is one of the most impressive, like technical puppetry scenes ever. I think we've all heard the story of like Brian Henson, Kevin Clash, and all of the puppeteers involved with the scene. Like the scene where they do the snake eyes thing, where where they hold the eyeballs in the Fireys' hands and like project with the eyes. That is like full real effects that they had to do and catch it perfectly. Where they hired a fucking like for not only the Jareth scenes of him spinning the fushigi ball and then the fiery scenes where they're catching like the freaking the eyeballs. They hired professional jugglers and fushigiers to do this, to hold their arms under the puppeteer's arms while they're puppeteering to freaking do the catching. It's some of the most complicated puppetry I think I've ever fucking seen.
Well, and how I guess maybe the song was developed first, if I'm remembering the behind the scenes documentary, and then they're like, okay, but how are we going to build puppets that like come apart? And they had never done that before. I don't think that had ever been done before. And like literally, they come apart, reattach. I don't know that if it's just them holding it in place. I don't think I've ever heard that if they put like magnets or something, maybe they're just holding it in place. I don't know.
I love the idea of the puppeteers being like sat around because I remember in the credits it was like the songs performed and like composed by Bowie. So I love the idea that like the puppeteers are like working on all of the core characters and then one day one of them comes in like, guys, we have terrible news. And it's like, what? They're like, Bowie just gave us something. And we're like, what? Spit it out. What is it? He's like, he wrote a song where we have to have 7 or 8 guys come apart. It's apparently non-negotiable. We have to work around the song.
Okay. Honestly, that is how it feels like for the movie. Like that's like that. I feel like that's a real conversation that was had because like the Fireys, they exist as I think a lot of people say that they don't have any like relevance for the whole movie. I disagree. I think they fill out the world of the labyrinth quite well to show the different creatures that inhibit this thing. But I do kind of agree that it is like such a departure. And again, it harkens back to like a Bollywood moment for me because Sarah is going through all these serious things, going through all of these growths and emotions. And then they just cut to a scene of the Fireys, doing
The
the
whole
dance.
point, right? It's like she is becoming more adult, and then all of a sudden there are these 5 creatures, and they're like, "Girl, chill out. Like, you know what? You don't even need your brain. You just
Literally.
take off your head.
Yeah, man.
Just chill here, do a little fun dance, and like stop trying to be all adult and save your baby brother. I mean,
Yeah,
Dude,
just
I've
chill
heard
out.
so many
irrelevant to me.
Brittany, I think you make such an amazing fucking point here because I've heard when talking about Labyrinth with people, I've had so many people just be like, dude, the Fireys are just random. They don't mean anything to this movie. And I'm like, no, they are.
The whole time it's childhood calling her back, carelessness, like,
literally
not having to
and the
think
fact,
about anything but yourself.
And the fact that Fireys are literally like stuffed animals in her bedroom, it's like, this is quite literally her childhood trying to pull her
Nah,
back
girl,
in.
play.
I love like I think fantasy is the perfect genre to do it as well. Where like and you could even say that a lot about a lot of stuff in to like harken to another fantasy movie of great scale and prestige, Lord of the Rings. Obviously it's a long journey that they go on. Obviously, it spans over three massive movies, all of which that got extended cuts. Like people can argue that not every single thing that happens on their journey is like entirely necessary, but I refute that. I think when you're on such a journey of scale and a journey of like narrative significance, every obstacle that you overcome is a character moment. Because as you guys said, it's literally her having to overcome that, so that like slipping into irresponsibility. That's literally such a vital part of her journey. Not to reheat the nachos of the point that you guys literally just made,
No, you're
but like
doing you're killing it.
fantasy is such a genre where like even the most like, insignificant things are like important because like even if it's not like immediately like there's no scene of like Jareth like sending the Fieries into the forest, but it's not necessary. It's an
Yes.
obstacle that she has to overcome. Not everything has to necessarily be linked to an
Oh,
immediate
no.
like consequence of like Jareth's influence. The
You
whole
are
labyrinth, the whole world, the whole journey is a series of obstacles that she becomes a bigger person by overcoming, and that's why the Fieries, as out of place as they seem, and they kind of are not mentioned, and they just come in out of nowhere and they do their dance, and they're like, "Hey, chill out, let us dismember you." It's like they're important, they're necessary.
Yes. Dude, I think you make such a fucking great point here. Both of you make a great point here in regards to the Fireys. I think this is what I love about Labyrinth and why I find certain elements more successful than Dark Crystal. Because I feel like Dark Crystal, there would have been an entire plot exposition about why the Fireys are being sent out by Jareth to get Sarah. And like there's going to have to, everything needs to be fucking explained. I love that Sarah just like runs into these things. Like, not every single thing has to be explained to make the world feel lived in, to make the objectives of these creatures any less important or like these characters any less important to the story. I think that part of the charm of Labyrinth is all of the creatures that you just meet along the way, and the heart, the genuineness in which the Henson Company puppeteers portray each character. You don't need to like, and harkening back to something we talked about earlier, where Sarah, when you just meet her, you know everything about her. Like Will made that point earlier. It's same deal with all of the characters we're meeting in the Labyrinth. When you meet the two door guys, when you meet the Fireys, when you meet every single character within the Labyrinth, you know everything they're about from just like the first few seconds of interaction with them. Like it's so much genuineness in the way that they're portrayed. I think it's so well done.
There is, if I may be allowed to backtrack again, there's another obstacle type character that I think has the same presence as the Fireys, but I think their part of the story is just a little bit more like narratively significant because it's like the big end of the second act
Come
conflict
in,
that
come
leads
in.
into the third. Oh, you get it, you get it.
Yep,
It's the like the
yep.
scavenger lady,
We
like
love
the
a
We
waste,
little
gotta talk
serious
about the junk
love.
lady.
the junk lady. First of all, such like a well voice acted puppet,
Shout out
incredible
Karen
voice.
Prell, dog. She killed
Karen
that
Prell,
shit.
literally the fucking goat of like
And
female
Denise
puppetry voices in the 80s and
and
90s.
Denise Breyer, who also did voice work on this character. So shout out to the both of them.
These divas, these fucking
These
divas. Like
divas.
obviously their little sequence of like an obstacle that Sarah has to overcome has a little bit more narrative weight than the Fireys, I think. But I think they serve just as much purpose because like yes, they're like the thing that
More
Sarah has to
comfy.
overcome there is like breaking the illusion and like not giving up at the last hurdle. And this sort of like starting to get a it's kind of like marks her understanding of the world that she's
It's
in now. She's
it's her
adapting to her circumstances.
it is her last obstacle she overcomes, right? So it's like all of these
Mm.
obstacles represent the same thing, and then it's like, all right, throwing it all out. She broke through the crystal. We just need to lay it out straight, girl. Here's your room. Stay in it, please.
Yeah.
Stay in it. No, fuck.
Yeah, it's a bit more
I
overt, I think, than the Fireys because they're both effectively the same thing. It's like abandon your responsibility, give up and chill.
Mhm.
But the Junk Lady is a little bit more heavy-handed in the way that it's delivered because it's like physically stay in your room.
I
Mhm.
think Junk Lady is another one that, again, I haven't really gotten to the Labyrinth manga at all, so I can't really speak to like how it is. But I think there's an element of it in which the Trash Lady is given a little more of a background and a little more explanation as to kind of their role within the Labyrinth. And it seems like they take like a mothering kind of role to Jareth, and it's implied that the Junk Lady is kind of the one that is trapped Jareth within the labyrinth using the same kind of techniques. And again, this is the manga. It doesn't have to do the exact thing in the movie. But I think that is a very like that does inform the character for me very well. Where Sarah, like shit, like the junk lady, it seems like she has some a kind of otherworldly power within this universe where she is fully able to trap those within the like other characters are trying to stop her and have her stay in the labyrinth, but it feels like it doesn't feel as serious and as like you are going to be fucking trapped here kind of vibe as like the junk lady. And for me, it feels like the most the biggest part of this movie to me where it kind of outlines the evil and the negative intentions that come with Jareth or that come with the labyrinth as a whole and staying in the labyrinth, and that she outlines that very well where it's like she is not only going to trap you, she seems like she's been trapped. And it's like a Lord of the Rings thing where all of this junk is kind of taken over her body and taken over her system. I think she is like kind of that representation for the story. And I fucking love the junk lady.
I
It's
think I
very cool.
know. Oops, sorry.
It's just a cool body puppet. Just wanted to say it's
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
really cool.
incredible.
I think I know why you're so fond of the Junk Lady, and I think it's a point that I found very interesting, and I find the Junk Lady particularly interesting as an obstacle to overcome because she, I think, represents just a little bit more than like breaking of the illusion. It's the fact that she not only herself is, but then she is trying to physically encumber Sarah with like objects. She's
Right.
like trying to like presenting like a physical distraction. And it's like I think it's kind of like a meta, forgive me, I'm gonna get film school again. It's like it's like a very much a metaphor for her like and how people are in like their real lives like stuffing themselves with distractions with like even like materialistic distractions like and I know that Max you probably fuck heavy with that analogy because you've begged me I think on at least three different occasions in this podcast to stop talking about the merch.
No,
um
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a little bitch about that.
Don't
I'm
know. This is
sorry.
actually this is what I look like.
no
Ah,
literally it's literally like I'm
call
Sarah
myself
and
on my
Brit's
back. I
trying
just
to
carry it around.
I'm just yeah I've I'm so encumbered with merchandise. But yeah, I think it's that I guess gaining a sense of responsibility through lack of like distraction of like because she's always like she's just like, "Ooh, look at this shiny little thing. Doesn't that make you feel better about the horrible circumstances that you're in?" And it's like, "No, it shouldn't really." Like there's no reason that I can't like be like fond of these objects, like Sir Lancelot, the reason that I got so heated at the beginning of the movie anyway, my little bear, that she then gives up to Toby by the end of the movie because she gets a greater sense of perspective. It's yeah, I just think that in terms of because you got all of like the little obstacles, because you've got the you obviously you got like the worm doesn't really count as an obstacle. It's an obstacle to me, but you got the worm, you got the
Not asking
doors.
clarifying questions, not taking things for granted.
Yeah, it's like you because you've got all of these like kind of trivial obstacles or like kind of like slightly more hee hee ha ha whimsical obstacles, and then the fireys, you're first like, oh, I feel a bit threatened, but
Yeah.
then like the junk lady, it's like it's a lot more
Scares
heavy of an obstacle. There's a lot less like sort of like joy and glee about her character. She seems very like a tortured individual who is trying to inflict it on others. And it's yeah, I just find her not only is she an incredibly impressive puppet build, incredibly well voice performed, but just like perfect as an end of the second act obstacle
Yeah.
to lead into the big climax. I just think that like despite the fact that the movie's trying to do so much and like throwing you all into it and you're discovering all of these new things, I think it's paced excellently. And I think that like big second act climax where she finally breaks out of this like illusion and gets a sense of perspective and is now ready to overcome that final obstacle and make it through the labyrinth. Yeah, I just think it was like the perfect character for the perfect time.
As a child, I can like confirm, not afraid of the Fireys, love the Fireys, very afraid of is it the bag lady or the trash lady? The
I thought it
bag
was the
dragon.
junk lady.
I think it's
Oh,
the
yeah, you're
junk
right. The
lady.
junk lady. Junk lady. I was very afraid of the junk lady. Like maybe didn't really watch. Maybe I kind of like closed my eyes a little bit.
Yeah,
No,
she's freaky.
she's freaky as hell. And I think it's like for me, I like the kind of messaging, I and not to like kind of put fucking socialist brain to everything and be like, this is
But that's what
always
we
a
do. That's
criticism
what we
on
did the podcast for. That's what we
we
do.
did the vibe. I'm putting on my Lisa
I was
Simpson,
literally like, oh, the fucking the mystics in Dark Crystal are
the
like
Democrats.
are oh yeah, they're like useless left-wing politicians who
Like
don't
I
actually
literally like
ideologically
yeah
believe anything.
I'm gonna put on my Lisa Simpson hat here with the trash lady is that it's very much like yes we get the end of the scene that the end of the movie that Loki kind of undercuts this where Sarah has all of her things back and she's dancing with all of her things that are now like real creatures and all of that. I have all my stuff back, yay! But I do think that the trash lady, the junk lady, is a very good representation of like the way in which materialism bogs a person down and that letting go of that is like of is what is like true freedom, letting go of the teaching Sarah the lesson that the community that she has built and the family that she has is the most important thing and all of these like man-made materialistic goods are stuff that she can forego to achieve that true sense of like love and growth and accomplishment. I really like how that's fucking done in this movie, and I really like the junk lady. I think she's a great outline for that. But again, it does get a little undercut in the end, where Sarah has a dance party with all of her things. But
I don't know if this is like maybe jumping up, but it's directly related to that, the ending scene. I forget. I was something I was watching. I don't know if it was Maurice Sendak or C.S. Lewis, but that there's some quote that exists that he gave like an attribution maybe to his daughter that he hoped that they grew old enough to come back to these stories. So, I mean, it could be more like that, right? It's like yeah, like now like 100% your little brother is more important than a stupid teddy bear.
Hmm.
But also, life isn't all like being able to pay the bills and whatever. Like you have to have some joy and whimsy too, Like
yeah,
that's really living. I mean, it's
It's
kind
well
of like
balanced.
happens in a split second, but you could interpret it that way.
Because
and
I was a little sad at the prospect of where the ending was going. I was like, oh, she didn't really get to give a proper goodbye to Ludo and Didymus and Hoggle. Like when she defeated Jareth, it was like, damn, she's just back in her room. I was like,
Uh,
this
nine
could
to
be
five grind for the rest of her life
yeah,
now.
this
You'll
could be
never hoggle.
kind of upsetting because I one of the things that I like that upsets me a little bit about this specific flavor of fantasy movie, and it's got like a term, but I think it's a weird term to use in this specific instance because I'm not sure it 100% applies. But like, Labyrinth is kind of an isekai. Where it's the idea of like a person from like the normal world is plunged into this magical world in like the isekai formula when they return back to like the normal world and they kind of have to forego like all of the things that they found along that journey. They have to say goodbye to like their newfound friends forever. I was saddened at the prospect of Labyrinth being another one of those. But then it
Mhm.
just kind of like, yeah, just sprinkle that fine. Here you fucking go. You can have Didymus back.
yeah, I genuinely, I've had some people have a lot of criticism with the end of the movie where Sarah has a dance party with all of the characters that she met in the labyrinth and all of the friends she made and everything. For me personally, I love it. I don't think it takes away from the accomplishments that Sarah gets at the end. I don't think it takes away from her growth. For me, it feels like this joyful celebration of community and all of the things that Sarah learned of community and family being like the most important things to her and more important than the materialistic goods that she had. So when her getting to literally celebrate that accomplishment with them makes me really happy. And I think it's like a thing with fantasy movies that people do too much. I even did it earlier in the podcast with the damn, does she even know that's her dog? Like I think with fantasy movies, there's this immediate reaction that a lot of people have where they are trying to pick apart like what doesn't make sense. And obviously, like, stories and like a good story should kind of make sense in some degree. But like I just feel like, it's a picking apart the logic of a thing that's quite literally fantasy and is quite literally just like, it's like, let her have the damn dance party with the dog and the
I
fucking hoggle and
I
the loot.
literally never questioned it ever in my life. I'm not going to. I accept the movie as it is, and if I need to create a 6 hour long video essay defending that to the very death, I'm confident I can do that. Okay.
Absolutely. If
Like,
anyone
yeah.
could do it, it would be you. 100%.
No, literally, like suspending disbelief is like I feel like one of the key parts of having to sit down and watch a fantasy movie. Because if you're really gonna be like, oh, she didn't notice that was her dog. Like I think that's a great point, Max. Like, oh, why didn't she say anything if she that dog looked like her dog Merlin? Bro entered the movie by being an owl that flew through her window. Why is that where we draw the line? Like,
They set the
I
movie as
bro
that.
was
Like,
an owl. Bro was on her
it's like
desk and she didn't say anything.
that is why I like find a lot of fantasy discussions like so frustrating. And like in other public kind of forums in which people have talked about Labyrinth, I feel like I've listened to so many people like do a rewatch of this movie and their whole takeaway is just like, how the fuck does this make sense? Why does that happen? Why does it go? It's like, but as Will just said, we're not questioning the fact Jared flies in as an owl at the start. We're not questioning the fact that he has a fucking fushigi ball the entire time. Like,
Where did
I
he
also
learn to
just,
do
like,
that? Like,
he
I also
did.
think it's really funny, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I keep referencing the fushigi ball, which is the that orb that freaking David Bowie spins
Crystal
around.
ball, call it what everyone calls it. It's crystal ball.
The crystal ball. I literally I have to go on a little rant about fushigi real quick because in the 2000s that was like a product that was on like Cartoon Network. It would be like call today for $24.99 and unlock the power of the fushigi. And I learned that the man who invented that was, he patented it, and like Jim Henson or Brian Froud or whoever found out about it, and they wanted to put it in the movie. And similarly to the scenes of the Fireys where they have like a hand under the arms of like the Fireys, the dude who made fushigi in the scenes where David Bowie is spinning around that fucking ball, his arms are just under David Bowie's armpits. And there's so many behind the scenes clips of the fushigi guy trying to do
Contact juggling blind.
yeah, like 40 times every scene, getting it over and over. And then it also I just find that so funny because Fushigi Loki ended up being like a total scam. And like, I just find it hilarious that this guy, this low-key scam artist of the Fushigi ball was able to get into a Henson project, make it an iconic part of that Henson project, and then be like, all right, I'm just gonna sell this on fucking Cartoon Network to a bunch of kids after it was in Labyrinth. It's like, what? Like, I just find it funny to be that
commercial.
Labyrinth
I would have totally bought that. Damn.
like it feels like to me if like Moon Shoes was in a Henson movie and then that became like a thing that like was on direct like buyout for $24.99. Like it's that kind of vibe. Whenever I watch Labyrinth, I can't disassociate Fushigi from it.
That
there
was the
really,
era of like product placement. Like, what the heck? What a miss. Moon
Literally.
there
Moonwalkers.
really are two types of people in the world. There are people who know an intricate history of the Fushigi ball and know about its presence in like in a major like a Henson production. And then there are
And there's
people
everyone that isn't Max.
And then there are people who only know about the Fushigi Bowl because Curtis Connor referenced it in a video and then did a deep dive video following up on that about the Fushigi Bowl. When you were like Fushigi, I like my Curtis Connor listener, like I was like a Curtis Connor listener sleeper agent. I was like, that's the Curtis Connor thing.
You're
For those
active.
for those not in the know, Curtis Connor is like a commentary YouTuber. He's like friends with like Danny Gonzalez and Drew Gooden, like that like flavor of content creator. And he went on a little bit of a rabbit hole a few years ago about the Fushigi Bowl. That's the only reason I know what it is.
I
This is
just
the
find
first
it
time I'm hearing of it, and I'm upset with my parents. I'm gonna call them right
There are now
after.
three types of people in the
What
world.
the
There are
heck?
those two, and then there are people who never heard of it, like Brit.
The reason I was in love with him, I wanted to be closer to him. Why am I not a contact juggler?
I just like I think we're kind of like we've kind of been going through the movie. There's as we kind of get towards the end, like the fight scene, the Jareth scene with the MC Escher room and everything.
Oh
I
my
just
God,
want to talk
crazy
about
sequence.
I would be freaking remiss if we spent this entire podcast not talking about one scene, the scene where Sarah falls through the hole and all of the different arms grab her, and then all of the different hands are like making freaking puppets and voices and talking with their hands and stuff. It's some of the most impressive puppetry I think I've ever seen in my life. And it proves the ingenuity of the Henson puppeteers. It proves the talent of the Henson puppeteers. And it shows, and it's like do you remember that show Ubi on PBS where it was like literally just hands with eyes? Ooh, that's like it's that kind of shit where it's you can like puppetry transcends. You don't need the felt, you don't need the creature for puppetry to translate into a movie. And I think that's like the incredibleness of this scene is that like puppetry goes so beyond. You can even just use your freaking hand and you can have successful puppetry when it's like with that much passion and that much genuineness.
It's kind of an homage to sort of like the beginning of puppetry, like shadow puppetry, like hand puppetry. It's harkening back to and like what's literally under like every single major puppet that Henson ever worked with, it's hands and the communication that you are able to do with your hands. I do want to suggest actually that we do
Oh,
an
yeah.
entire podcast episode, but we
Yeah.
have to talk specifically through like
Oh, I thought you were gonna say
like
like if like Max is gonna be below me in the final airing of this. Max, you're my mouth. Look, I'm the eyes.
Yeah.
Be my mouth. Can you do that? Go, but underneath me. Where are you in your screen?
we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
I think we should try and do like an entire episode of the podcast where we're talking like we're off screen and it's almost entirely
But
just like
people want
the
to see
mouth.
it.
Yeah,
Make
that's what
it
I'm trying to
happen.
see. That's what I'm trying to see. Like, come
Literally.
on.
Genuinely some of the best puppetry that I've seen in the movie and really speaks to the ingenuity of the Henson puppeteers. I think it's so much talent to
Think
be able to.
incredibly dangerous and
Oh my God,
I think 100% worth it. Yeah, I totally appreciate
yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying. Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Damn, I didn't know she had that range. Like,
Yeah.
she's-
Pretty sure she was not foreign.
I don't think so. But yeah, as like I said, as we kind of like wrap up the movie, obviously we have gone pretty in depth about this absolutely incredible, absolutely iconic movie. Um, the last thing that I want to talk about this movie before we move on to kind of like the impact that the movie has had is something that we briefly went over, and I'm interested to hear like sort of like a condensed version of you guys' thoughts about this because I can't talk about this for too much because I get very impassioned and very bitter. But I don't have either of you guys seen The Lighthouse or The Witch or
Yeah.
Nosferatu? So you're familiar with the
What was the
director
third one? Sorry, what was the third one?
Nosferatu, the one that
Oh,
came
sure, yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Those were all done by director Robert Eggers, who, in my opinion, is one of the best directors currently working, one of the best Western directors currently working. He has an incredible filmography and incredible lineup of films that he's working on. And one of the films that has been announced that he's working on,
Uh,
it's unclear what form it's going to take, but it's going to be some kind of new addition to the Labyrinth universe.
okay.
I have my opinions about this. In just like a brief summary, how do each of you feel about the prospect of Robert Eggers doing some kind of Labyrinth continuation, whether it be a prequel or a sequel or just like in the universe of, what do you think about it?
Yeah. I definitely first of all, before I get into this, I really want to make sure we talk about the fight scene and the Escher scene after I talk about this after we talk about this part of it because that's like I have to talk about those things. But in terms of Robert Eggers, I mean, I think The Lighthouse is one of my favorite movies of the last decade. I think that movie is fucking incredible. I think the way that Robert Eggers plays with tone, with color in his stories, with just the way he portrays like the feeling of like tenseness and this feeling of like the sick to your stomach feeling of like what's gonna happen next. I think Robert Eggers is insanely good at that. I personally, with Labyrinth, the thing that I feel with it is that I think this is one of the worlds that is the most primed for expansion. I definitely like, I understand why people would have some hesitancy with diving back into this world. I love Labyrinth. I don't think it's like a perfect movie with like perfect, it's like, it's not like it's not this incredibly perfect thing that should never be touched again. And like going back and like touching this world would be like egregious. I think in the way like Dark Crystal, they did obviously do a prequel series about it and explain more of the universe. But Labyrinth, I think by virtue of the fact that, we've talked about they don't really go into a lot of the lore elements of the world. They don't go into a lot of each thing. They just move throughout the labyrinth. And obviously that's that is important for the movie in the sense, and then we've talked about the kind of idea that it doesn't necessarily matter that all of those things are explained because it's just like it adds to kind of like the feeling of being Sarah in the labyrinth. But I think by the fact that they didn't explain a lot of the things going on, and I think that the Labyrinth world has been so just through the lens of what Sarah experienced, we don't know anything else about it. I think this is one of the worlds that is most primed in Henson to dive back into to kind of learn more about. And I really think that if it wasn't Robert Eggers, I think if it was some other director, I would feel a lot more hesitant. But I just his track record and also his appreciation for practical effects is the biggest thing for me. For large sets that make you feel contained and trapped within a space. That's the thing. Like The Lighthouse is very much a movie where you feel trapped, where you feel like you can't get out. And I think if he even brings a fucking ounce of that to a labyrinth project of like feeling like you're stuck within this labyrinth, I think it's going to be successful. So I think this is one of the worlds that is most primed for expansion.
So I completely disagree. First of all, how do you say his name? What is it?
Robert Eggers.
I thought it was Eggers.
I have
Eggers.
no
That's what I
idea.
thought. Okay, so
It's one of them.
I like The Witches. I didn't like Lighthouse. I have like a whole thing about, mental health portrayal. Sometimes I'm just like, it's a miss for me. Did not, sadly, wanted to, did not like Nosferatu. What was the last one? What's the other one he did?
Really? He did the Vivitch. He did the
I love that.
Lighthouse. He did Nosferatu.
Okay. Oh,
He's currently working on a Wolfman movie that looks really interesting.
he did Northman, didn't he?
Oh, he did the Northman as well. Yes,
Northman.
that
Hated Northman.
slipped my mind.
Wanted to love it. I'm like Norwegian heritage. Wanted to love it, and that's just personal preference. I like objectively good movies. Didn't personally like them. Right? They didn't speak to me. If he is it, I'm gonna go into that movie 100% cheering for him. Because I want an excellent Labyrinth movie, and maybe he has a lot of range that I haven't seen, and he's going to be able to turn out something that for me rings true to Labyrinth. Because if he makes something that's like dark and heavy, like Lighthouse, like no, that's not Labyrinth to me. Could I still like it? I don't know, man. I mean, I really, really, really hope so. For me, if I were going to pick who the next director of The Labyrinth would be, I mean, I love Brian Henson. I guess he doesn't direct anymore. That's fine. That would be great. Michelle Gondry comes to mind, and who
What has
did
she
like
worked on?
Michel Gondry is actually a man, and he did
Oh, my bad.
Science of Sleep and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Very whimsical, a lot of practical effects. Because like I guess like I already forgot how to say it. Him, Guillermo del Toro. Yes, I love that they make monsters and stuff like that, but they have like very dark tones. They're not whimsical. And for me, Labyrinth is whimsical. So Michelle Gondry would be a better pick, or Greta Gerwig, director of Barbie. Maybe I wouldn't have said her until I saw Barbie, but like she can clearly do Wizard of Oz. So, um, those are my that's my thoughts in a nutshell. Just rooting for him, but worried.
Well, I feel spoiled that we got such contrasting viewpoints. Wow, we're really covering all the bases. I have feelings about it, and I think my feeling about it is kind of the most okay boomer feeling you could possibly have about it. I am of the opinion that sometimes we don't need to go back.
Oh,
Sometimes things are better left alone. To me, Labyrinth, specifically like the film Labyrinth, is the way that it all came together is so uniquely 1980s that it would be hard to kind of recapture that and A, recapture it successfully, and B, recapture it in the minds and hearts of a modern audience. If they did that now, would modern audiences cling on to it? But I think probably my most contentious opinion about it is like obviously I've made my opinion about Robert Eggers very clear by the intro that I gave by him. I personally have a very high opinion of him. His work isn't for everybody. Obviously, it's not for a Brit. Um, but like there's no correct taste to have about movies. I think he is incredibly talented, and as Max said, has a real affinity for practical effects that I feel like could be a boon to this project. I think trying to do Labyrinth without Jim Henson and without David Bowie is a
Hard.
fool's errand.
Yeah.
It is a non-starter, in my opinion. They are two of the things that made it what it is. And revisiting that world, I don't know if it's relevant or necessary. I love Labyrinth. And I think expanding it in the form of manga and comics, I think is a great format, and or like, even like storybooks or something. I don't know if another big live action film is it. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, for me, like the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, yes, that adds context to the original movie. But to me, like them going back into the world didn't take away from the feelings of the original, it didn't take away from the impact of the original. And yes, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was not successful in terms of like appealing to a modern audience. But for me, like I feel like if they attempt it and it isn't like that successful, I feel like it's not gonna like it doesn't I feel like it doesn't take away from anything of the
Yeah,
past.
my opinion as to why narratively Dark Crystal works as something to be expanded more than Labyrinth is because of the contrast of how these worlds are developed. Dark Crystal is so rich in its lore, and there's a clear timeline of events where it's like here's a window of time where we could tell an interesting story in the context of this world. And that's what Age of Resistance did. Labyrinth is so loosey-goosey in the existing world and I kind of like that about it. That's one of the things that I do like about it, that it refuses to explain the world. I don't know. I don't want it to have any more context or depth. I like that
I
it's just a silly world that we are immersed in that we have to accept as part of the journey. I don't
I
necessarily want to know if I want like an origin story of like the things that like fart in the bog of eternal stench. I don't want to know how they got there. I don't want to know their names. I'm happy. I'm happy.
I want
I
more content. I want more content. I'm an easy please. Like the craft legacy, love the craft. Craft was also my identity when I was a child. Craft legacy, terrible. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. We'll watch it a million times. And I will watch whatever they make. If they're willing to make it, I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna love it, even if it's objectively bad.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like I just kind of disagree with the idea that Labyrinth is not like it's like I just don't see it as like I don't I love Labyrinth, but I don't hold it with enough reverence to be like you can't touch this story. Like I think it's a world that and yeah, I get what you're saying that like yes, it's like I love the fact that Labyrinth you just exists in the world and nothing is like fully explained, and you kind of get this like beautiful experience where you get to be like Sarah in the maze. But for me, I just find the world of Labyrinth so like in the way that they neglected to explain a lot of things. I think that it gives like a lot of opportunity there, and I guess just for me that I just feel like I love Labyrinth, but it's definitely not a movie that I'm like, bro, you can't touch Labyrinth. It's so, like, what? For me, I think it's like a beautiful dark fantasy movie, a fantastic Henson project, something that is amazing. But like, yeah, I think it's something that is prime for expansion. And I think I'm also existing in an era where I'm not gonna be upset at them doing more stuff within the Henson company and getting more projects out. Dude, if Henson wants to fucking do a Labyrinth thing, I'm like, thank God we haven't had shit in so long. Like, I would rather them go back into the world of Labyrinth than just do nothing.
To be clear, I do hold Labyrinth on a pedestal and I will take whatever they give me. I think just the prospect that, I mean, it could be mediocre, great. It could be bad, still great for me. But it could be great, you know? That's exciting. I want
I want it if they do decide to do something with Labyrinth as a world. I obviously am not rooting for it to suck so that I can say I was right, they shouldn't have done that. I want it to be great, and
to.
I think if especially if you get a good team behind it, if you get some of the amazingly talented folks at Henson Company behind it, even if you
It's
get
like,
Brian to just consult or
I
like do
just,
a Hoggle voice again if he fancies it,
Oh,
like
wait, he's gonna be involved in the project.
that's what I'm saying. It's
he's
like,
gotta be, yeah, he's
I
gotta be.
doubt this movie is going to be, or at least whatever project that they do with like a new Labyrinth thing. It's like Brian
Totally.
Henson's still alive. So many of the puppeteers who were in that movie are still alive. Like, I think it's like one of those things where I definitely agree and I absolutely get the
Crowds,
point.
the crowds are still
Um,
around.
Yeah,
yeah, like
get the
I
baby
totally
back in
get
there,
that.
have him dress up as a baby.
Toby is the new is Toby, but like An age
Yeah,
appropriate.
It's
that's
like,
funny
oh my
as
God,
fuck.
do like a Force Awakens, and it's like, and it's like Toby Brown has like his
I
own
want to
Labyrinth
see it.
baby.
I want to see
Yeah,
it.
That would be really funny. Actually,
That
fuck.
has to happen, right?
Oh my God, Labyrinth baby legacy.
He's like, don't I get to touch puppets? I'm a puppeteer. No.
No, you never forget. You will always be the baby. Oh my goodness. Well, that's I feel like we've got a really interesting sort of like diversity of feelings about it. And you know what? Like we could look back when if the announcement gets solidified and we see a trailer, we can come back to this. Oh no, like even when it comes out and we've all gone and seen it, we can come back to this and be
six
like,
hour podcast,
"Wow,
the trailer.
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's our next episode." It could be like, "Wow, how fucking wrong was that guy?" And it could be any one of us. Who is to say? I think it's probably going to be me though. My hope is that if it's Henson and it's a good director, that it will be good. I'm just a little old man about it. Unfortunately, I'm just being a little old boomer, like old man yells at cloud, don't touch labyrinth type.
Represent a lot of people, everyone has different
Yeah, but
feelings.
I feel like we all represent different groups that are sort of like different lengths of optimistic about it.
Sure.
Um, wow, okay. So,
I cannot end this episode without talking about the Escher scene. This is like something that's been on my tongue this entire fucking time, and not in like an upset way in any capacity. But this whole time, I've been sitting here thinking,
you've
when
been
can I
like,
fucking talk
when are
about
we
the
gonna
Escher
talk about
scene?
the fucking stairs? Can you shut up about Eggers? I want to talk about the stairs.
I think in the point that Will made earlier about like the hesitancy to go back into this world because it is such a distinct thing of the 80s. I think a real thing to Will's point is the fact that MC Escher is so heavily featured in this fucking movie that when Sarah gets past the junk lady and they get past the like large fight scene between, when Ambrosia and Didymus are fighting people and they have giant like Gundam style fucking things that the Jareth creatures
shooting
are using.
shooting guns for some reason. They put guns in there.
No, literally. But they get
It's like, oh, you
Escher.
okay? So you went through all of these like whimsical ass trials. You went through like the scary ass creatures. You went through like absolute woe and agony. You made it to my city, and you still weren't
Non-violent.
defeated. I'm going to shoot you with a gun.
Yeah,
This is
literally.
my last recourse. Is we're going to shoot you with guns and hope that that solves it. We are going to
I,
fire guns at you, and if that doesn't work, you're going in the painting. You're going in the fucking painting.
Yeah, but like the Escher world, I think is so distinctly an 80s thing. MC Escher, I think, was a product of that time. I don't really know anyone my age that is like a massive fucking Escher fan in the sense that like it's like I think of Escher as something that is so distinctly of that time
Well,
that
everyone in my age, 80s babies, most certainly had an MC Escher poster in their college dorm room, period. It was just,
it,
if you didn't have it, you weren't in existence.
to me, when I watch this and I see this very distinct thing that was a part of like American pop culture and art culture and stuff beyond Labyrinth and something that's like featured within this, to me, I do enjoy the Escher scene. And every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I love that they're doing. There is a part of me when I watch this movie that I get so taken out of like I almost don't like the Escher scene because I feel so taken out of the movie because they're referencing something that's so our real world and something that it feels like Henson and George Lucas and Brian Froud is taking something. I know it's in Sarah's room in her bedroom, like before like they get to the end. But to me, it just feels so like referencing something that's too of our real world for me to like enjoy it. I do like the scene, but I find it takes me out too much. And I find myself thinking about the real world MC Escher, and I don't like that. I don't like to be reminded of something happening in the real world when I'm trying to get lost in the fantasy world like that.
I would doubt that that would have been most people's experience in the 80s. I've never heard anyone say that. And I personally didn't, I like, even when I figured out who MC Escher was later and had that poster in my dorm room, it's just never crossed my mind. I'm gonna guess that that's probably true. I guess I don't know. I only know my own experience. So interesting.
I'm just saying for me personally, like
Yeah.
I really cannot watch that scene without being completely taken out of the movie. I just find it too referential to our own real world. I think to me that's like if fucking they get to the end of the labyrinth and they're in, you know, you know that song, the futures made of virtual
Jamiroquai.
insanity. Like, and
Oh,
it's like if
virtual
they had
insanity.
it's
Yeah.
like if they had gotten to the end and
Yeah.
fucking Dareth is in a virtual insanity room doing all the movements and everything, because that was like a part of pop culture at the
Maybe
time, you
Eggers will
know?
do that.
But like, yeah, literally. But you get that analogy I'm
You
trying
get
to make, right? It
Jennifer
feels like
Connelly.
something.
Jennifer Connelly is like, okay, we're in the third act. What the fuck's gonna happen now? And then there's Jareth. They're like, da-da-da,
Futures.
da-da-da,
No, but like
da-da.
you get the analogy I'm trying to make, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's something
Yeah.
that is so like distinctly of that, like of that was popular in pop culture being put into a movie that's so distinctly fantasy. It takes me out. It literally feels like if they did the virtual insanity in the movie.
It's like a direct pop culture reference, which I think is something that has kind of like lost its punch in sort of like the climate of film culture because like in a lot of and not to be, again not to be like an old man, but in a lot of modern Hollywood, three-quarters of like jokes are just pop culture references. And I think in a movie that is like, I think you're absolutely correct, Max, and that's so far removed from reality to have just essentially a big pop culture reference in. I can understand why it would be a little bit jarring, but me personally, I think it is still artistic enough, right? It is still something that is not like, and I think artistically on a different level to Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to besmirch Jamiroquai here. Love you, Jim. Love your massive hat. I
That's
like,
fire.
yeah, it's fire. I want one. I think that it's just like, I guess, culture enough for you to be able to get away with it. It's I'm thinking of Gonzo in my head, like, no, it's okay, it's culture. Um,
Yeah. I guess for me, it's just like I find it too. I understand what y'all are saying, and I think I'm probably definitely in like an outlier camp here. It is far too our real world and our real reality for me to like not lose. It's like the part of the movie that loses me the hardest because I genuinely am so invested in this world and like fully am about everything until I get to the Escher scene because I'm just like it feels too like Escher was too popular of an artist at the time, and I just find it's like everything else about this movie is so unique and so just deeply, deeply unique to this project. And you could argue that including an Escher thing at the end of this movie is so distinct and so like, you know, unique to a film like this. But for me, I find it too like it's like I get the point of like this movie being so distinctly of the 80s, but that's the part where it loses me, where I'm like, that this is the point where I find it kind of drank its sauce a little too hard of being like an experimental, funky 80s movie.
You know what? I'm thinking about it, and probably I mean, first of all, I definitely didn't know who MC Escher was when I was like two and watching this or whatever. But secondly, I was probably just way too, like, my favorite songs in the film when I was younger were Dance Magic Dance, obviously, and then As the World Turns, right? Or is that? No, no, no. What's the last song called? In any event, the
Man, I
last
don't,
song,
I'm a fake fan. I don't remember.
I can't think of the name of the
Yeah, me
title.
too.
Dun 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 dun, my precious thing. I move the world for no one, right? And that song's going that whole time. And I'm in love with David Bowie. And he is singing to me about how he has turned the world upside down for me, specifically, Brittany Ferguson. And so I don't give a fuck that MC Escher is in the background. He's like doing flips and like being sexy and stuff. And that's all like, and singing to me specifically. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I think the thing that the main feeling that I got from that scene is, first of all, like I have a thing about heights, so I was consistently freaked out, just like oh my God, that baby's gonna fucking fall. This is it. We made it through this whimsical movie. That baby's gonna fall and die. I'm freaked out by heights, so that thing freaked me out. And secondly, it's another one of those beautiful moments, and because we obviously are all puppetry nerds, we all study the method, we like see how it's done, we see behind the magic, and we're impressed by the practicality of it. But every single time you watch any Muppet movie, any Jim Henson Creature project, there's always, despite how well researched we are, every single time you watch one, there is always at least one moment where it's like, how the fuck did they do that? How did they fucking do that?
40 years later, I don't know.
Well, like for me, what's so distinct about the Escher scene, despite my criticisms, is that it feels like Jim Henson saw a Escher painting as something so unique and as something like oh, I can put this in a puppetry movie and figure out a way to like not only make this space 3D, but to like I think it is one of the most successful puppetry in the entire movie. And even just in the way that Jareth is like jumping around, the way he's dropping Toby and Toby will land on a different part, it feels so seamless. And it's one of those things where as much as I criticize the decision to make it like an Escher world, I think the way Henson portrays it is very successful.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's like, I've said it historically, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Henson's a weird little freak, and I think that like makes some of his best art. But and I said it at the beginning, there's something so distinct about some of Henson's work where you can tell that he is so a film student that now makes films. There are things in some of his projects that are so distinctly like, oh, this is like some film school stuff. Like even just the panning around the room and being like, look, all these items of interest, these are all little Chekhov's guns that we're gonna fire later. But one of the things as a film student myself, when you're making like projects in like you're on your degree or in film school, it's always like whenever you have to make a project, there's always that little voice that says, make a reference to something that you like, make a sly reference to a film you like or a book you like, and it's gonna be very heavy-handed and it's gonna take you out of the film, but you love it, so you're gonna do it. I did it in every one of my student films, and it was heavy-handed and ridiculous every single time, and it was not sly or subtle at all. And I put it in there because I loved it. And this feels it's Jim Henson's big film student moment. He's like, I fuck heavy with this painting. Fuck it. It's the third act.
See, that is, I find it very interesting your perspective on that. And I really like hearing the kind of positive outlook on that because for me personally, like that is my biggest criticism of this movie.
Mm.
Like to me,
And
that
it's
is what
still
takes
valid
me
as a
out.
criticism, I think.
It like
I
it
think
takes me
you're
out
right
the
to feel the
most
way you
because
do
it's
about
like
it.
to me, everything else about this movie, pretty much at all aspects, Jim is firing on all cylinders in terms of like portraying this world as unique. And then for me, I get so taken. I agree with what you're saying because I love hearing the other perspective on this because it makes me like think about my own position even more here. But I guess for me, at the end of the day, I find myself that is probably the biggest part of me that takes me out of the movie and like the part of the biggest criticism I have towards this project that I generally think is like an S tier movie.
Mm. But other than that, you're happy with it.
I fucking love Labyrinth. I don't like because like for me it's just like I again we've made this point a lot of times in the podcast is that like criticizing something that you love is like the best way to consume media is that like if I was just looking at Labyrinth without like any fucking criticism towards it, it wouldn't like I wouldn't actually care about the project. And so for me it's like I there's a good amount of things that do take me out of the movie and that I do find to be like, why the fuck did Henson do this? But those are all also reasons why I love the movie. Like, even though like I am a little annoyed with the Escher thing, it's like to be even able to have the discussion on my criticism for it and like the decision making of Henson about it is part of why I fucking love this movie because Henson is such a unique guy and would make a decision like that. That even if it doesn't land with everyone, I'm like, hell yeah, I know I'm also like the 1% outlier here. I'm pretty sure 99% of other people aren't feeling that way about the Escher seat or any of that stuff. But I just, again, to make the point, I think that like this movie's fucking amazing. And like, and the criticisms I have about it are part of why I love this movie.
Yeah.
But even then, even when you've got like that's a point that's contentious to you, that still became such an iconic piece of imagery. For some people, that imagery is inherent to Labyrinth. Some people don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
MC Escher and think, oh, that's the Labyrinth scene. And that
I
is just
hope
a
so.
testament.
Damn,
It's
I hope
the
people are
Escher
like that.
Jim Henson. God.
And that's
This
just a
fucking guy
testament.
copied Henson.
He's this fucking plagiarism gets worse and worse every day. They ripped off the Muppet guy. But yeah, it's just a testament to the legacy of this movie. And there's one specific part of the legacy of Labyrinth that Max and I are not qualified to talk about because one of the reasons that we asked our lovely Brit here to guest is because you attended an event that is a big part of the legacy of Labyrinth because it has spawned such a fan culture and such a love for this movie that came together in the form of an event. This was run by an event company called Thamescon. They've done over the last couple of years a few Henson specific events in London. They did the Great Conjunction, which was an incredibly successful Dark Crystal convention. And last year, they did a big Labyrinth convention, a Labyrinth Masquerade ball, I believe. Despite the fact that they both took place in England, somehow I wasn't at either of these.
Yeah.
But we know somebody who was. Brit,
The
would you like
beautiful,
to give us a
beautiful Brittany, who is also the Goblin King and who is also so awesome. Please tell us about your experience.
Oh, it's funny hearing you say the name because I know so many people have said the name of the convention, but in my mind, THA will never be Thames. So I keep saying Thames, even though I know it's
Damn.
I
Then
can say where it was now after being made fun of by British people on the train. It was held in High Wycombe, not Wycombe.
Mm,
That's not
you're learning our like language idiosyncrasies now.
DHA is not Tim's, but okay, Tim's Con, and they this is their second Labyrinth event that they had. So they had actually had one before, and it was epic. So I flew out to London, obviously, to because I'm a US based person, if you couldn't tell by my British accent, and it was a 2-day event. It started off with just like getting to see all the VIPs come on stage, like the opening ceremony. And William Todd Jones had built this vulture puppet to like I guess like they were benefiting a conservancy, but it was just like one of the first moments of the convention was hilarious because William Todd Jones, who worked on the Labyrinth as a puppet builder and things, comes down with this vulture, and Dave Goles looked like a kid in a candy shop, like would not get off the stage interacting with Bernard, the vulture. And that just kind of set the stage for the whole event because there were a bunch of VIPs there. There was so much information, but then like really all it was a bunch of like, adult kids sharing their love for puppetry and Henson and whimsy. And that included, everyone who attended, the organizers, 100%. The organizers are like the biggest fans, Zay and I think Toby. And then the puppeteers themselves, or like the Henson affiliated VIPs, and yeah, it was magical. Do you want me to just kind of go on a rant about what happened or who was there?
Please.
Hot
Yeah, just give us a
takeaways?
highlight reel.
Okay, so I brought the schedule. So I'll just give you my like top what like I'll walk you through what I did. So
Hell
we had
yeah.
opening ceremony. Then I participated in a workshop called A Taste of Avenue Q. So Nigel Plaskett, who is of UK puppetry fame and was the trainer of I think all of the Avenue Q performances, he gave us a workshop on how to do Avenue style puppetry. It was just like, an hour, like just like slams it all in. And basically the point is to be like, this shit's hard, y'all. But one of the takeaways I took from it was that he was basically saying that, all these people who have done Avenue Q on the West End, they're not puppeteers primarily. A lot of the people that he trained, he gives this like 1 week workshop before they're just like, rehearsing and like getting ready to be on stage. They're not puppeteers. They might have no puppeteer experience, but because they have such good acting skills and such good hand-eye coordination, like most of them are able to pick it up in this time. And maybe in all of the people he had ever trained, only one person couldn't pick it up, which I thought was like, well, damn, like I've been trying to master hand puppetry for a freaking hot minute. Okay. All right. That was great. Then I went to, let's see. I think then I must have gone to the tea with the misses. So they had this whole other area set up where there were the Elfin Wild. It's Jim and I didn't write down her name properly. Pam. Oh man, my handwriting is terrible. Elfin Wild is this company that does all of these reproductions. They make their own original characters, but they also do a lot of reproductions of Brian and Wendy Froud's work, like with their blessing. The doors that they had, these like life-size replicas of the doorman, they were puppeteered. So you could like interact with them. And
That's so cool. Oh my God.
Wow.
also not like at times Sir Didymus was like behind the doors. Just,
Wait, they had a Sir Didymus?
well, Yeah.
Ah,
They did have a Sir Didymus replica, but one of the puppeteers was like spot
Will, you were in the same city as Sir Didymus,
The
and
thing,
you're the truest
okay,
Didymus fan of all time.
this is the really embarrassing thing because I was in London for a different convention at the
on.
same time that Brit was in London for
Oh.
this event. I'm really hoping to attend some kind of Thamescon event in the future. Now that I know what my priorities are, my priority being Sir Didymus.
Well, they are
Yes.
doing the ball for the 40th this year, and it's just the ball, so it's a much smaller event. It's just like a not like a 7 to 11 sort of thing. I am confident. I mean, maybe I'm not I shouldn't like say things and promise things that I can't promise, but I would imagine they would put out some of the Elf and Wild things since it's just the ball. I would imagine they at the ball. It's well, I'm not going to get to the ball yet, so I'm going to keep going in order. Uh, so after that. Let's see. I think another big thing that I went to was a talk called Off Script. So by the way, these like talks were like just back to back. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be able to do so much stuff. I felt like a whirlwind trying to get as much in, but I did make it to the end, I think, of Off Script, which had Deborah Goles, Jocelyn Stevenson, and one of the I think uncredited, but she was credited on one of the major scripts writers, Laura Phillips. And that was incredibly interesting because Laura Phillips was basically like, I can't believe y'all invited me here because, like, I basically didn't even write anything that you see on screen. And maybe she's been a little bit outspoken about that. She, definitely, she herself has some criticism about like the friendship of Hoggle being unearned when like he's betrayed and then she accepts him back because if like her version of the script, it was a little bit more like clear beats that were like, here's the conflict, here's the resolution. She also had a character called Old Boulder that was like a piece of rock fallen from the moon that she was talking about being this like feminine power. And it was like the one character she wished had made it into the final film. But so that was cool.
That's so interesting. Oh my God.
I did not know you dropped a name there that makes me even more upset I didn't get to attend this event. Max, Jocelyn Stevenson, didn't know if you knew this, was one of the key creative forces behind Fraggle Rock, but also is a key creator of a lot of British like children's entertainment. There are so many like the ones that I name dropped in one of our previous episodes. So many of those are Jocelyn Stevenson's doing. Max, do you want to know who co-created with Brian Henson the greatest television show of all time? The Hoobs.
You know who the Hoobs are? Yeah, let's go. Even
Jocelyn
in the
Stevenson.
Labyrinth episode, we're talking about the Hoobs.
Gotta.
We had to bring him in, sorry, but next time there's a Thamescon event and I find out Jocelyn Stevenson is going, I'm moving heaven and earth to go there to ask her everything about the Hoobs.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry. I know you're
I
here
got
to talk
distracted.
about Labyrinth, but I'm here to talk about the damn Hoobs.
Oh,
Bring me
that's
Hubba
fair.
Hubba.
Got distracted, my bad.
So I think maybe well, they also had like a owl puppet like flying out, but I mean honestly that took up all my time. I didn't even make it into the VIP room to talk to any of the VIPs or get any signature. I think I literally didn't step foot. Oh, I know. I missed one thing. So I also did the As the World Falls Down ballroom dancing class with Tammy Stronach. She's like the child empress. That's like really her major acting credit until she later did a film called Man and Witch with her husband. And in the time in between, she was like a ballroom instructor, professor, I think at like maybe NYU or something like that. And so it was very cool because she showed us the behind the scenes of the ballroom scene. Apparently, initially, all of these masks are supposed to be goblin masks. And so there are all these goblins dancing, and the original dance choreography involved mirrors. And so, like, someone would be like looking at a mirror, and then someone else would come in and try and look at the mirror. And there was just like this vanity in the dance. And so the ballrooms, so first we did that. We just were like walking around the room and then like trying to steal not everyone had mirrors, and trying to steal our gaze. And then we learned some actual, a ballroom dance that we could dance to As the World Falls Down, and did dance at the actual ball, which was that night. It started at like 7 or something like that. And I mean, it's the event, it was held in High Wycombe, which is, I guess, a town. But then there's like High Wycombe Abbey, which to me is
Hmm.
like a castle. We went to a castle. I don't know what an abbey is. I was at a
Yeah.
castle.
It's like a big church.
Oh,
My American brain, it's either a big house or it's an apartment.
I
So
was
is
in
that
a
one?
castle. Castle. There were kings and queens, and I was there.
And this
And
gorgeous castle.
it was gorgeous. No, I really didn't clock. I guess it did have glass windows, whatever. So it was gorgeous. They had it lit like it's just so beautifully, and because I was dressed as Jareth, I'm like sort of like a feminine Jareth. I mean, no, not that
Oh, diva.
the
Hey,
not that
down.
the audio listeners can see that, but it's like a Jareth outfit with like a gown at the bottom. And there are a lot of like solo travelers there. So immediately I made best friends with like all the solo traveler Sarahs.
Picking up all the straddlers.
We just like spent like most of the I mean, we definitely made a point to dance with our ballroom buddies, but then we were like taking pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun sense of like community of like finding each other, like all of you, because kind of like even just like the wanderers or the solo ventures that you kind of like all like congregated around each other and found each other.
Oh,
Something.
immediately. Like my friend Bloom, who I've mentioned a million times, like people were just like, "Oh my gosh, so how long have you known each other?" We're like, 2 minutes.
Ah,
I
It
feel
seems
like
like
that's
you're best friends. We are.
I feel like
ah.
as somebody who is a regular convention goer, I feel like that's kind of a lost art in conventions, but especially big conventions. They've kind of lost their way in recent years, especially some of the big ones in the UK that I've attended. The art of like making friends at con has kind of become a harder and harder thing to accomplish. And so I love that it's kind of like a slightly more intimate one and like kind of like more specialist one because it means that you all have common ground and you all have found each other. That's really beautiful.
It was just a bunch of fast friends. I mean, like, I think I made 20 best friends on that trip.
Let's
So lovely.
go.
We literally have like a whole chat that we created just from it.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's
Ah,
lovely.
wonderful.
I love
Speaking
that.
of which, at the two of my friends, and then this is one of two that I know of, but I know of at least two couples that got engaged at the ball.
That's
Oh my
incredible.
God.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
They're
Can you
wonderful.
subverting what
imagine?
actually happens. And they're going like, this is what would happen if
Oh, they're like, this is
this.
Labyrinth if it was awesome, if we were both of age and getting
Here's the
married.
thing. It's almost like I'm very happy for these people. I don't want to just like be joking about this very beautiful thing that is like these people experience, but it's like quite literally like the opposite. That's like the bad ending. Even if it's a good thing for y'all, it's the
Oh, but
bad
they
ending.
weren't dressed as Jareth and Sarah, so I don't know if that makes it different.
That does make it different, I
They were.
think.
They were like, they were just like
Wow,
they were
Max.
goblins, you know.
It was two
Judgmental
Ludos.
much?
It was two Ludos kissing, and it was great.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd tell you
Was
what, I'd watch a new Labyrinth if it was just that.
there was a girl dressed as Ludo, but like as a gorgeous glam ballroom Ludo, and she had like a scepter, and it had the like I don't know what they're called, ankle biters or whatever on her scepter, and it was
Oh
an
my
actual weapon.
God.
That woman, slay.
That's
That's
fucking
so sick.
incredible.
Oh my
And
God.
a lot of the VIPs were there. I actually like didn't see them. I guess I was too busy like taking photos all evening or whatever. But yeah, like the Frouds showed up, and I think Deborah and what's her husband's name?
It's like Darren or something.
Yeah, Darren.
Yeah,
Plays like
something.
a blue guy or something.
I
Yeah, I
That
don't
guy.
know. Whatever.
But
Plays
anyways,
not
Deborah,
whatever.
not
Deborah
very
and her husband
familiar.
were there, and
Mm, good guy.
and and I don't know who else of the VIPs were there. Maybe everybody was there. I'm not sure. So then the next day we have a whole other day of event, and that was the day that Brian Henson was there.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so it was very much Brian Henson, Brian Henson, Brian, or at least for me, it was like this day is about Brian Henson. And so yeah, he was like on a lot of the talks. Oh, but I started off my day doing a helping hands ensemble or a helping hands workshop. And
Oh,
so
so you do some of the like the ooh.
we got together in groups of three and we were challenged to come up with the most unique like positioning that we could in practice. And it
That's
was
cool as
fun.
hell.
It
That's
was
so
fun.
fun.
They did it both days. They also had like an I lichen painting thing that I swore I was gonna be able to do it. Like I was, but somehow, you just don't have time. So um another big thing for me for that day, I think it was like mostly taken up by Brian Henson, like going and getting a photo with him, going and getting his autograph. They had him stationed in this other part of the Abbey. It was the library, and it was just so gorgeous. I don't know, very, very picturesque. They were very smart with that placement. Um, but then I went to a seminar called Ha Surprise. So there were two guests that were not announced until like maybe literally while we were there or the week, maybe the week, just like 7 days before. And so Mira Velimirovic, she was the assistant to Jim Henson. Like Jim Henson didn't have an assistant. He was running around the world doing everything and, being a madman. And his daughter, Cheryl, went to college with Mira. And they were like, dude, Dad, you really need to like, you need help, right? And so Mira ended up being that person for like, I don't know, a decade. And she says that it was basically a decade of her life where like friends, family, maybe she could have been dead, because they didn't know where she was, just so busy taking red eyes, like flying from like the UK, being in the UK in the morning one day to like being on Sesame Street in the evening the next.
Just
Yeah.
following this guy and his fucking frog around wherever he was going.
Yeah.
She said that she would like her job would be like he would be like running around puppeteering, doing this, doing that, and then he would get breaks and he would like take the information from all the calls she fielded, and he would just be able to be like with zero context, no, oh, this name, this question, this is the answer. And then she'd go back and give them the answer, even though the last time he had even thought of it was like 12 months prior.
King
Um,
overextending himself, overworking himself.
right.
Bless him.
Then Brian Henson had his own, I had like the top VIP, um, like ticket, but I just like completely forgot that there was a one-on-one with Brian Henson, in the
Wow.
same library. So all my friends told me about, the questions that they asked and things, but then he did have, a panel, and I think, those questions had triggered some stuff. So he talked about it in his panel. And then was there something else about that? It's so funny because like I could tell you a lot of things I've ever heard Brian Henson say, but I don't really remember. I think that he just kind of like what I do know is that when he did the intro for the film, he was like, you know what? I haven't really talked about Hoggle. And so he made a point to talk about Hoggle because I think a lot of people who were fans there were just fans of Henson in general. So it wasn't like all of these panels were exclusively about Labyrinth. Like there was definitely a lot of puppet talk. And Will, you'll probably appreciate this because everyone was losing their mind, but like Louise Gold was there.
I
And
love Louise Gold.
um,
This
yeah.
diva. Oh my God. That's okay. Louise Gold is a big one for me and Max. Max is a huge Louise Gold stan. We are an Annie Sue household at Muppet Moment. Oh my God, what
I
an
love
Yeah,
Annie
yeah,
incredible
yeah.
Sue.
Muppet.
We're gonna
Love
do a
her.
whole damn episode about Annie Sue, basically. Like,
We
I have
could. We
so
fully
much
the
to say
amount that
about
we
her.
personally have talked about Annie, so we could fill that an episode.
I just remembered there is one thing in the Brian Henson talk that was like, this was actually my favorite. I can't believe I was surprised. It's my favorite memory of the whole weekend, which
Ooh.
was this at the time I didn't know him, but this man in a green jacket raises his hand to ask Brian Henson a question, and Brian Henson goes, oh, wait, I know you. You're the guy that has the Muppet Museum in Sweden. And I ended up hanging out with him for like 3 hours, him and Andreas and Jonathan and Bloom like afterwards at our hotel. But I learned after the fact, Stube, English is his second language, and in that moment, he just completely forgot what he was gonna ask. And I have no idea what he said. He has no idea what he said. And we all heard him say it. And then Brian Henson goes, okay, so I think you're asking me, who knows what the fuck he pulled out of the blob of words he said
Oh my
to
God.
answer the question. Because it was just like, wow, yeah. And he has a museum in Sweden, Stuve's Muppar Museum.
Wow. I mean, if I was at a panel and Brian Henson was like, I know who you are, I wouldn't be able to form a
Yeah,
sentence
I'd be
either.
Right?
flustered as hell.
I would.
Also,
I'd be
to know
speaking a
that there's a
language.
Swedish Chris Muppet stuff equivalent, and that is killing me. That's
That's
awesome.
crazy. Wow. There are whole multiverse variants out there of Muppet museums. Crazy style.
That's great. That's so funny. Good for Brian, at least, like
Yeah.
giving it his best shot, being like, all right. That happened when Will and I were at Puppet Up in LA. There was a moment on my tour where like we had a quick Q&A with Brian. And this lady on my tour, I don't mean to talk so much shit about her, but she asked the most jarbled bullshit question where Brian was just kind of like, the roundabout question was like, if you would ever work with the with the Disney company again. But he answered the question as being like, huh, well, I appreciate you asking that. And I said, maybe could be a thing. We don't know.
That's
It's
crazy.
a pretty good
We've all
person.
met Brian Henson just under different contexts. That's the second time this happened with Shelby as well. We had all met Brian Henson in different contexts when talking about a non-Muppet Henson movie. Wow. This is becoming a
Well,
recurring theme.
to be
Yeah.
honest, like Brian Henson is I mean, this is like probably a hot take, but if I'm being real, like Brian Henson is my Henson, you know?
But yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Henson all of us would have grown up with.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, me and
And I
Max
would
specifically.
Brian literally like he deserves so much credit beyond being just Jim's son because like he directed Christmas Carol, he directed Treasure Island. It's like this dude, Brian is absolutely the Henson that I think we all grew up with the most.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Nail on the head.
Yeah. So then we
Wow.
all got our autographs. Trevor Jones was a last minute addition, so composer for the score of The Labyrinth.
So
The main thing I took away from his talk was he said, when at the time he was kind of like up and coming, and but David Bowie to him was like, wow, gosh.
yeah.
Look, reflecting back on it, he says, once you have any modicum of success, maybe you turn yourself to being like really generous with the compliments that you give people. So he kind of felt like maybe David Bowie was doing that to him, but David Bowie was like, yeah, I love your work, man, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought that was kind of cute. I mean, the man icon,
Yeah.
right? What an epic score. But so everyone else had signed our posters in a closed room, but Trevor Jones, because he had been this like last minute addition, I don't know if he had like showed up the hour before in the UK or what. It was a great time. Made literally like 20 best friends. Went home to the Travel Lodge and proceeded to stay up until
Oh,
3 a.m. talking to my
Travel
neighbor.
Lodge mentioned. Oh my goodness. A staple of British culture, might I add.
Oh,
Love you, Traveler. Oh, peak.
this just this sounds like such an incredible time. Like, and the fact this just speaks to me on how impactful this movie is that like 40 years later, basically, we are having like where you're literally going to a convention and meeting a ton of awesome people who also share the love for this incredible Henson project. Like, I'm so happy for you. What is that? That sounds so fun.
Also on the trip, I didn't get to make it to the VC. I don't know what it is, like the David Bowie like archive that is available by appointment where you can see like all of his outfits and stuff like that. I didn't get to do that, but I did travel to the Sci-Fi Museum in I don't know where, UK, and saw Ludo.
Oh,
Oh my God, they have a Ludo. Oh,
I gotta find out
and
what that is now.
people can, after the podcast is over, to look into this story further. But I've read a thing about how like the Hoggle puppet was left in a suitcase, and then there was like they forgot it at an airport, and then now it's like in a museum of forgotten things at airports.
Well, it's actually like at a giant thrift store. It's called like Lost Baggage Claim. It's in Alabama. It's a 2 hour drive from me, and yeah, it's.
Oh my
I have paid. What is it? Made the
Paid
trek, paid
respects, or
homage. I have
yeah.
made the quest, and I have seen Hoggle in his current state, which is not great, but I love him as he is.
I think the Henson Company does such an amazing job with their archiving process. Like Karen Falk is like such a talented individual.
They were not involved in. That's the
That's
whole
what I'm
reason.
saying. Yes.
That's why.
And that's like the point I was going to thank you for saying that, Brittany, because I was about to say that if Karen Falk was the one in charge of fucking Hoggle, he would never have ended up in a museum in Alabama. And it's just funny to me that something from such an iconic movie, like Ludo is in a museum in the UK, and then Hoggle is in a thrift store in
That's
Alabama.
soup.
Well, Brian spoke about that. He basically said that up until those donations were made to MoMI and this and Center for Puppetry Arts, like they kind of didn't really think of their puppets as being art. Dave Gold said the same thing, it's just like this felt that you throw away. So they had done like a tour like in the US and the UK, but that's how all those things kind of I think got lost is because for a hot minute there they were like, yeah, whatever, you make it for the film and then it's done.
Mm.
But
I wish
obviously
I wish I could teleport back in time and just be the guy who's like, you guys are throwing away all these puppets. I mean, I'll
I
just
want
fucking
him.
make them. Like,
I'll take him.
I mean, if nobody wants these puppets, I'll take it.
Gosh, tie my hands, twist my
like
arm.
twist them.
Well, dude, that sounds like such an incredible event. And like we're not like let's just say this is gonna be a surprise to Thamescon when it comes out. We're not like we didn't prepare this. We're not like sponsored or anything.
I mean, you
But
could sponsor this podcast. That's fine.
That'd
Right.
be great.
this podcast was sponsored by Thamescon. But no, there is, yeah, I was gonna say they got events coming up. I believe they got Labyrinth Masquerade Ball in August.
Labyrinth, Masquerade Ball, yeah.
That is very exciting. And they've got this in their social bio, so it's not
Yeah.
gonna get me in trouble if I say it. But autumn this year, we've got a Muppet show convention, and it's going to be absolutely unprecedented. I am so
I
excited for this. You guys have literally no idea how excited me and Max are for this.
I literally like am so happy that Brittany shared their experience with this incredible time at Thamescon because like that speaks to me that this event was like well run. It was like this intimate experience. We got to meet all these incredible people who worked on the project, fans of the project, all of that. That I'm going to London for Muppet Con. If that
I
shit
didn't even
happens, I am
talk.
there.
I didn't even talk about the VIP room because I honestly, like me, I'm a little bit afraid of VIP rooms or whatever. I did go
Yeah.
and talk to Kevin Clash because I really wanted a picture with Kevin Clash because I didn't really get to talk to him and he had judged me in a lip sync competition at Dragon Con. But my friends Stube and Andreas, they basically like lived in the VIP room and they had so just to add to like how great and how well run this convention was, they just said that like living in the VIP room was everything for them. The stories they heard, the way that, all of these Muppeteers were interacting with them. I mean, worth its weight in gold and more. So
That's so cool. I hope we can get that experience in London. Like, I would love that. And to like see y'all, like, obviously, no pressure to you, Brittany, but I would fucking love to have Muppet House with you in London. Like,
We
oh my
want
God.
to see our Muppet Boys again. We've missed everybody. September was too long ago. We missed y'all. Come back.
um,
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh, what an incredible experience. And I think that whole experience you had really speaks to the impact of Henson work in all of its forms. That's something like Labyrinth, a movie that's just this silly little dark fantasy movie from the 80s, is like this thing that still unites so many people. That makes me so
you like
happy.
what I like, and it's Henson, good egg. Best friends for life.
Good. Big fan of you.
Well,
Done.
what
You're
a
stuck.
beautiful note to leave it on. So before we wrap up and we say goodbye to everybody, I'm just gonna give something a little shout out very briefly, if I may. This is not like a red carpet situation, so there's no thing where it's literally like, who are you wearing? But I'll tell you who I'm wearing and have been wearing this entire time.
I I need to grab mine.
Go grab yours really quickly.
Grab
while I
mine.
give a talk. This again, so sorry to everybody who's not a visual viewer, but I'm wearing a little something that was made by the incredibly talented Leah Makes Mayhem as just a little trinket from the Muppet Grammys, which we referenced in our last episode, that we were so incredibly lucky enough to have won Best Podcast for. I didn't mention it last time, but I was actually a double winner that night because I also won Best Breakout Account. And literally today, before recording, I have got my gorgeous Muppet Grammy Kermit pin. It's hard to show him off properly, but he's a little
It's
golden Kermit with his banjo. Oh my
Gorgeous.
goodness.
It's so gorgeous. And I just want to say, I can't find mine. So thank you, Will, for giving that great visual thing. Leah Makes Mayhem on Instagram fucking killed it with this pin. Oh my God, it's so high quality. It feels better quality than a lot of pins I bought. Super well done. But as Will stated, like to get that physical, pin in the mail to get something that's like Will won for best breakout Muppet account, and I'm so proud of him. Like he deserved that shit so much. And to win with my buddy here, my close pal, to be able to do a Muppet moment to get recognized for that was so much. And it means that we get to have these awesome experiences where we get to like hang out with Brittany, who is so fucking awesome, and like get to talk about Labyrinth. Like I appreciate it so much. Like this is just the coolest thing ever.
Just yeah. So I just wanted to shout that
Well
out very briefly
deserved.
before we wrapped up. Bless you. Thank
And I
you.
want to shout out just Brittany in general. Just thank you for being on the podcast. You were an amazing guest. Everyone, please go follow Miss Leisure on Instagram. See all of the incredible puppets, all of the incredible stuff you're working on, all of the cosplays. Like
Oh, the
you are constantly
cosplays.
killing
Don't
it.
even get me started on the cosplays. Oh my
I've got
God.
some things planned, so yes, please follow at MS underscore Leisure. Wow, I lost all ability to talk. You
Ah,
know,
You're so good. Please go check out. Please go check out Brittany and check out everything that she's up to because you will not be disappointed. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of A Muppet Moment. We are so excited to bring you some more stuff this new year, and but this was such a fun one that we were so grateful to get around the time of the movie re-release. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see y'all next time. Goodbye, y'all.
ah.
Bye bye.